Chapter 1. The Emperor Ascends to the Throne. It all begins with Konohagakure, greatest of the 5 ninja villages and her brightest star. This is the story of Konoha's maelstrom taking the worlds by storm. Enjoy. Naruto, who were the founders of the Leaf Village, and what distinguished them as ninjas? Questioned Irika-sensei. A tall man, roughly 5 feet 11-ish height, give or take. A scar above the bridge of his nose marred and contrasted his otherwise affable and friendly demeanor. He adorned what appeared to be Konoha's standard shinobi attire. Shinobi pants along with his battle-earned chunin vest marred with cuts, holes, and fresh snitching, a testament to battles endured by this seasoned veteran. A young boy stood up. He could be no older than 13. He wore a plain white shirt, with an Uzumaki emblem in red on his back. He wore black umbu pants, black shinobi sandals, and black fingerless gloves. He had long spiky golden hair, with crimson highlights that went to roughly about the middle of his back. 2 adjacent bangs adorned the side of his face. He was a bit on the peckish side, resembling more of Pop Teen than that of a shinobi. Naruto Namikaze, son of the famed Yellow Flash, Konoha's 4th Hokage, wielder of the Rinnegan, container of the Kyuubi no Yoko. He was touched by greatness. Naruto spoke smoothly and gracefully, as if a harp was inserted into his vocal cords. The founders of Konoha were Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. Madara was widely known as the leader of the Uchiha clan. He was said to have been the only Uchiha to have truly mastered all forms of the legendary Sharingan. He was known for his proficiency in ninjutsu, jinjutsu, taijutsu, and kenjutsu. It was also stated that he was able to control and tame the Kyuubi through the use of his Sharingan. Hashirama, in contrast, was the leader of the Senju clan, rival clan of the Uchiha clan. He was known as Kami no Shinobi, due to his mastery and efficiency in all of the shinobi arts. However, his fame was built in particular on his unique power to use MOKUTON jutsu, a feat no other shinobi was capable of using till this day. Irika smiled, practically glowing. Good job, Naruto, excellent, as always. Inwardly, Irika was fist-pumping, crying tears of joy after suffering through brats. He finally had a star pupil. Naruto said nothing in retort, quietly returning to his seat, shifting his gaze, allowing it to drift towards the windows. No, it was as if something was calling him, beckoning him, awaiting him. The Genin graduation exams were held tomorrow. He knew with utmost certainty from that day his life would change forever. And if he had his way, the world would follow suit. Tomorrow, the graduation exam. In the classroom, the young, eager minds were bubbling with life. You could hear Inuzuka Kiba, a pharaoh looking with shaggy brown hair, with 2 twin fang tattoo on each cheek, jubilantly, boisterously announce loudly that he was going to become a genin. Man, that kid had a pair of lungs on him. The rest of the class weren't too far behind, raging from anxiety to excitement and total disinterest courtesy of the resident slackers. Naruto was currently entranced, nay immersed on a book on the art of sealing, voraciously digesting each page of the interesting read. Naruto was very intrigued, fascinated on the art of sealing, considering what an impact it had on his life and his family's legacy. To be able to stop and defeat an entity such as the Kyuubi through sealing was an astonishing feat that amazed Naruto. It was mind-boggling that a bit of ink and paper held the ability to seal and contain a magnificent beast of enormous, unparalleled power such as the Kyuubi. To just utter the name Kyuubi struck fear into the heart of the bravest men. He admired, respected, and hated his father, the shinobi who stood valiantly in the face of death, protecting the village with his dying last breath. He admired his strength as a leader and Hokage, but despised him as father. He left him alone to this world-devoid family. He was aware of the great sacrifice he endured, but throughout it all he couldn't help but selfishly think that his father chose the village over him. Irika unleashed a massive torrent of chakra. Kami would be jealous. Big Head no Jutsu. The effects were instantaneous. Every student bolted upright, rigid as stone, giving Irika their undivided attention. I still got it. Irika smirked to himself. He continued on, let us start the genin test. After a few students went by until it was now the runner-up for Rookie of the Year's turn, Uchiha Sasuke. Uchiha Sasuke, it is now your turn. Please step forward and perform Kawarmiai. Sasuke Uchiha, the last of the Uchiha. The hope of the once legendary clan rested solely on his shoulders. He was fairly tall for his age with long dark hair with a faint blue tint. His obsidian eyes contrasted his unblemished pale skin. He wore blue shorts and black shinobi sandals, as well as white shirt with the Uchiha crest boldly displayed on his back. Sasuke performed with great ease a perfect Kawarmi with a nearby desk. "Superb job," gushed Irika. As for the second part of the test, Sasuke was asked to perform the Bushin Jutsu. In a puff of smoke, 3 perfect replicas of Sasuke appeared. Irika stood over each Sasuke inspecting them until he was satisfied. "Excellent job," acknowledged Irika. Afterward, Sasuke was instructed to perform the henge. Yet again, after a puff of smoke, Sasuke transformed into a perfect replica of his deceased father Uchiha Fugaku. "Now, Sasuke, you may perform any jutsu you'd like for extra credit," said the proctor. "Irika-sensei, I would require open clearing for my technique," said the young boy. As his sensei instructed the children to go outside, the Sasuke fan club had started to squeal, fantasizing what jutsu Sasuke of the esteemed Uchiha clan would utilize. As they exited the school compound, Sasuke walked to the far side of the clearing. He then ran through a few hand signs at a calm, steady pace, molding chakra with each woven seal. "Fire style, fireball jutsu." With that, a large fireball erupted from the boy's mouth. It looked as if a dragon was belching flames. The massive ball raged until Sasuke dissolved the fire, thus ending the technique. The Sasuke fan club were in a frenzy, ecstatic with joy and amazement at the display of such an impressive technique. Haruno Sakura, no love for Sakura, let it be known, was the loudest of all of them. "Go Sasuke." "Excellent job, Sasuke. Next up, Namikaze Naruto," said Irika, and with that, Naruto performed a perfect henge into the 4th Hokage. Naruto was instructed to perform a Bushin and surprised everyone further by doing the Kage Bunshin, for solid clone copies of Naruto appeared. Irika, recognizing the jutsu, gasped in surprise. "Naruto, that was a Jonin-level technique you just used." Naruto responded coolly, "I found it in my father's scrolls. It was a surprisingly easy technique to learn." Irika couldn't help but gape, mouth open at the sheer notion of an academy student learning a Jonin-level technique with such ease. Then again, Naruto wasn't your average student, so it was understandable. Naruto then performed a perfect Kawarmi as instructed. "Naruto, for the last part, you may perform any additional jutsu you have in your arsenal for extra credit," informed Irika. Naruto shook his head and declined. "Alrighty, then Naruto, you passed with flying colors. Go over to the table and take any headband you want. Congratulations on passing. You are now a genin of Konoha, where you hate with pride." Naruto nodded his head in recognition and picked up a black headband. He stared at it. This symbolized he was Konoha's protector. He held it for a few more seconds, admiring the craftsmanship, trailing his hand on the cool metal plate, and then he tied it at the top of his forehead. "Squad 7 will be Naruto Namikaze, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno," announced Irika. Sakura squealed in delight on being placed on Naruto and Sasuke's team. Irika continued to announce the squads. Squad 8 will be Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Abure. Squad 9 will be Shikamaru Nara, Chuji Akimichi, and Ino Yamanaka. Ino erupted in anger, a spunky blonde with a long pointy tail trailing down the length of her spine with a large bang covering her eye. She voiced her displeasure. "How come Forehead gets to be put on the same team as Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun, while I have to put up with lazy and chubby over here?" "Shikamaru, I'm too lazy to detail this guy," muttered Troublesome, and struggled to maintain an irate Chuji, fuming. Smoking, enraged, oh, he was boiling. Our lovable resident Akimichi was a bigger boy with light brown hair, with 2 prominent swirl-mark tattoo upon each cheek, as well as a bag chips that seemed permanently glued to his hand. "I'm not chubby, my dad said so. I'm just big-boned," yelled Chuji in frustration, anger, but more so embarrassment, his weight being an evident sore spot. Irika sighed, massaging his temple. These kids would be the death of him. He absent-mindedly glanced at his now graying hair and vowed never to have kids. He figured this was going to happen. "Hokage-sama, pick the teams. If you have a problem, you're more than welcome to discuss it with him." Ino immediately quieted down. After a couple of minutes, everyone was dismissed with their according sensei, except for Team 7. As they sat in the class, silence stretched throughout the room. With nothing to do, Naruto pondered as to who would possibly be their sensei. Sasuke's thoughts were unknowingly on a similar level wavelength. After a couple of never-ending hours, Kakashi Hatake, a tall odd man, would be the best description appeared. Hear me out. He had gravity-defying white hair, but looked fairly young. He stood tall at no less than 6 feet, but his face was obscured by a face mask along with Konoha headband tilted to obscure his left eye. He entered the classroom in lazy stroll and slouch. He apprised what would be his new team to meet him on the roof. Team 7 managed their way up the stairs. Once everyone was there, Kakashi started the conversation. He instructed them to introduce themselves, with him only telling them his name in response. Naruto glanced curiously at Kakashi, as if sensing Naruto's gaze. Kakashi tilted his head to Naruto, eyes filled with mirth and amusement. This is the famed copycat ninja, who's said to master 1,000 jutsu because of the Sharingan and father's student, thought Naruto. Little did Naruto know Kakashi was also having similar thoughts, so this is Sensei's son interesting. Sasuke regarded Kakashi with a bored expression and little to any perceived interest. My name is Naruto Namikaze. My dream is to bring about a change in the ninja world, the one my father sought to bring, and to grow up to be a better shinobi and leader than he was. I dislike few, I like few, and my hobbies are training. Sasuke was up next. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I have many dislikes. I like few things, and my goal in life is to avenge my clan and to kill Itachi. Sakura was the same as canon. Kakashi held a genuine smile under his mask and thought. Naruto, you've grown in an interesting way. Kakashi decided to speak up. All right, guys, tomorrow you take the survival test, and you guys probably shouldn't eat unless you want to throw up. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to tell you, only 33% of the genin will graduate. The rest of you will be forced to return to the academy. He muttered the last part darkly. With that, Team 7 was dismissed. Naruto left without a word. Then Sasuke declined Sakura's date offer and left as well. The next day, Sakura was the first to arrive at the training grounds. Naruto came strolling shortly after to the training ground with such grace it looked as each step he took he glided on air. Good morning, Naruto-kun. Naruto glanced at her and gave a short smile in return. Good morning, Sakura. Are you ready for the test? She smiled. Hi. With our team, I'm sure we'll be able to beat any test Kakashi-sensei throws at us. Naruto just nodded in response. However, his thoughts were not the same. No average team would be able to take down Sharingan Kakashi. Sasuke eventually arrived and decided to perch himself under the Sakura tree and began to brood, only to be pestered by Sakura soon after. 2 hours later, Kakashi finally arrived. Kakashi strolled in as if he just rolled out of bed and said, "This is the survival test. The point of the test is to get these 2 bells. Those who don't will be forced to go back to the academy for another year." Kakashi set an alarm clock down and announced and commenced the test. Sakura, seeing the alarm clock, seethed in anger. Kakashi-sensei, how were you late when you have an alarm clock? Kakashi had the decency to blush from embarrassment, but no one could see under his mask. He sheepishly scratched the side of his mask, averting his gaze, and said, Well, you see, Sakura, I bought the clock today, and that was why I was late. Sakura kept her gaze on Kakashi for a minute before nodding her head happily, completely satisfied with his answer. Kakashi, in a dramatic long gesture, straightened his back and continued, Ahem, you guys can start anytime. Amusement rolling off him in waves. He would enjoy this. Both Sakura and Sasuke vanished to hide, while Naruto stepped forward ready to engage Kakashi in combat. Kakashi rose a single eyebrow in surprise and countered, You know, out of the 3, you're kind of odd. Naruto activated his Rinnegan in response. His Rinnegan was gold in coloring with 3 rings around the pupil. It practically exuded power. Mama, activating your Rinnegan so soon, Naruto. So those are the legendary fabled Rinnegan. Let's see what they can do. Kakashi began to lift his headband in order to use his Sharingan, but Naruto wasted no time and lifted his hand and calmly muttered, Bansho Tenin. Immediately the bells were flung to Naruto, in which Naruto was able to safely secure them. Naruto afterwards deactivated his Rinnegan. Kakashi's eyes widened greatly in shock. Never in his entire career as a shinobi had he seen such an attack. What the hell was that? Both Sakura and Sasuke walked out the hiding spot, with shock plastered in bold letters on their faces. Naruto began to exit the training ground, but was halted when Kakashi appeared out of thin air right in front of him, one hand on his. "Naruto, what do you plan on doing with those bells now that you have them?" Kakashi asked. Naruto riposted in a bored manner. "The bells are useless to me, but since I have acquired them, I am now a full-fledged genin. I, Naruto Namikaze, hereby invoke Article 13b of the Konoha Constitution." Kakashi's eyes widened to the size of saucers. He staggered back in shock as if he was hit with a haymaker. His expression transformed from shock to rage to disbelief. He voiced his outrage with a sneer. "Naruto, now is not the time for any jokes." Naruto decided not to validate Kakashi with a response. Sakura and Sasuke were utterly confused with what was transpiring. "Kakashi, Sensei, what are you talking about? What is Article 13b?" inquired Sakura. Kakashi shot Naruto an angry glare and grounded out. "Article 13b allows any ninja born in Konoha with ancestry of any Kage to challenge the current Hokage for rights to rule the village. However, if the challenger were to lose, they would be stripped of all rights and privilege they once held and dishonorably discharged from Konoha should they survive." Sakura's eyes widened in shock and shot a worried glance to Naruto. Sasuke, after digesting all the information, asked monotonously, "Has anyone ever invoked Article 13b before?" Kakashi, still angry, no furious, took calming breaths and managed a reply. "No, no one was ever foolish enough to challenge the Hokage, let alone the Kami no Shinobi at age 13 no less," hissed Kakashi angrily. Both Sasuke and Sakura winced at Kakashi's jab towards Naruto. However, Naruto, completely unfazed, kept a mask of indifference. He maneuvered around Kakashi and began walking towards his destination. Kakashi wasn't through yet. Kakashi grabbed Naruto's arm roughly and said, "Naruto, stop this now. Why risk it? You have the talent, potential, and prestige to become Hokage in future. Give it time. You have the makings of a great ninja. Don't ruin it now. Don't allow your arrogance be your downfall," supplicated Kakashi. Naruto's head slowly turned so that he was now facing Kakashi. Any other words Kakashi had planned to say died in his throat. The ice-cold glacier glare Naruto pierced him, froze him dead in his tracks. Those eyes so cruel, so cold, I can't breathe." Kakashi's hand felt numb and it dropped lifelessly at his side. Kakashi began to gasp for air, his breathing ragged. The feeling of dread hit Kakashi with full force, his lungs straining themselves to gather oxygen. His vision blurred, and just when he was about to pass out from the strain, the feeling vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Vertigo struck Kakashi, leaving him reeling and disoriented. Naruto turned his head away from Kakashi and continued making his way towards the Hokage's tower, focused on his goal. Kakashi struggled to regulate his breathing. With considerable effort, he managed. He allowed one stray thought to cross his mind. "Who are you, Naruto?" "Hokage's tower." "Naruto, are you aware of the full consequences of your actions?" Sarutobi asked politely, perhaps even tiredly, as if burdened with some untold pressure. Naruto nodded his head and said fluidly, devoid of any ounce of fear or hesitation. His resolve was unquestionable, although his judgment could be impugned. "I am aware of all the terms." Sarutobi sighed. "Naruto, I'm giving you one final chance to recant and reconsider. See reason. Do not squander your potential with this foolish endeavor." Naruto spoke without hesitation. "I'm fully cognizant of the consequences and your fears. I will, however, proceed regardless." Sarutobi sighed, but spoke gravely and said, "So be it then. Tomorrow in the arena, we will settle this battle." Later on that evening, at the Shinobi Council meeting, "That boy's arrogance will be his downfall," said Danzo, completely outraged. "For a child to even conceive of challenging the Hokage at such an age is unconscionable. But the fact that that child is the future of this village is irrefutable. We need him," mused Danzo. Sarutobi could only nod in agreement. "Troublesome, but that child is a great asset to this village." Perhaps we can sway his judgment to reconsider this foolish challenge, offered Shikaku. Many of the council members murmured in agreement. I have tried, but the boy is as stubborn as his parents, admitted Sarutobi sadly. I failed to convince him otherwise. All we can do now is wait for the outcome of tomorrow's battle, said Koharu. Then this council meeting is adjourned, said Sarutobi. The next day, the challenge between Naruto Namikaze and Hiruzen Sarutobi for rights of leadership has been accepted. To let the fight between Naruto Namikaze and Hiruzen Sarutobi commence, stated Kakashi. Up in the stand. Well, the kid had a good run, said Genma, while chewing on a long Senbon. I wouldn't count him out just yet. He said to wield the legendary Rinnegan, informed Asuma. The what? Exclaimed Kurenai. The Rinnegan. This revelations gave a great deal more insight to the battle. You heard me. Back in the arena. Naruto, I implore you to see reason, Sarutobi said. Call it off now before you get hurt, and your rank will not be stripped, pleaded Sarutobi. He greatly wished to stay his hand. Regardless how talented Naruto perceived himself to be, only one outcome could be guaranteed. He dreaded what he would have to do, and for the first time since the Great Shinobi Wars, he felt the immeasurable weight of what it meant to be Hokage. He was meant to kill the Yondaime sole heir in cold blood. Oh, how he wished to wash himself of this entire ordeal. Naruto riposted with a series of hand seals and yelled. Lava release, melting apparition technique. Sarutobi's eyes widened briefly in surprise before quickly schooling his features and flashing through his own set of hand seals. He then yelled in response. Earth release, earth-style wall. Afterwards, a large pillar of earth erected from the ground before the aged Hokage. However, as soon as the lava made contact with the wall of earth began to melt, Sarutobi managed to stay on top of slab of earth, and eventually the lava subsided. However, its effect were horrendous. Various scars and burns riddled the battlefield from one attack. What a devastating attack. Sarutobi was brought out of his musing when a shadow clone shimmered behind with an orb of swirling condensed chakra in its hand. Rasengan, yelled the clone. Sarutobi, with amazing reflexes, dodged under the orb and attempted to elbow the clone, but the clone with great expertise used its momentum to roll and jump to the other side of field, and in a great leap stood next to its creator. What in Kami's name happened just now? There was no possible way the clone could have seen my attack and reacted so quickly. It must have something to do with his dojutsu. Sarutobi flashed through some hand seal of his own. Fire style, flame bomb dragon. Immediately, a dragon of enormous proportion rose with great speed and descended onto Naruto. Naruto and his clone flashed through a set of seals and intoned simultaneously. Water style, supreme water dragon. Immediately, the water vapor and the moisture in the air grew rapidly, condensed to form a large dragon. Both dragons connected and created a large explosion. It appeared to be a stalemate, but that didn't last for long. Fire release, fire dragon flame bullet. All the air and wind gathered and strengthened the dragon, and in no time the arena could feel the heat that radiated of the dragon. Back in the stands. Wow, who knew the kid was this good? Kotetsu said in shock and awe. Yeah man, did you see the size of that dragon? And he didn't even need a source of water for the jutsu. Many jonin nodded their head in agreement. The Hokage ain't no slouch either. He uses everything opportunity to ensure his victory. His last attack is a deadly one. The jutsu itself is an A-rank fire jutsu on its own, but with all this air and wind strengthening the jutsu, it could be bumped to S rank. Shit, the kid's toast. Ain't no way he can stop that jutsu now. Back in the arena, Naruto looked upon the dragon with disdain and raised his hand and calmly spoke. Shinra Tensei. Immediately the dragon was destroyed, obliterated, and everything and anything left of the dragon's existence was terminated. The whole arena was left in complete and total shock. Even Sarutobi stopped and froze. His posture could not hide his fear, apprehension, and awe at what he had just seen. For a moment he wondered, is the ability of a god? A random shinobi yelled, what the hell was that? Many shinobi murmured and voiced their agreement. Naruto paid no attention and quickly went on the offense. Bansho Tenin. Immediately, Sarutobi was flung with great speed towards Naruto. Naruto wasted no time and flew through an additional set of seals. Wind style, wind pressure damage. A large blast of pure condescend wind shot at Sarutobi with breakneck speed. Sarutobi, seeing his imminent doom, acted quickly and yelled hastily. Earth style, dragon earth bomb. The head of dragon immediately rose and shot rapid blast of mud bullets towards the condensed wind. The effect were instantaneous. A large explosion occurred, blasting everything away in its path. There was a looming dust cloud that ensnared the entire arena, blocking the view from everyone except maybe a few talented Hyugas. The dust eventually subsided. Naruto was first to be seen. He appeared to be encased in some type of orb that surrounded his whole body, and he was perfectly fine. Sarutobi was found lying battered and bruised, bleeding heavily on the ground. Naruto released his jutsu in recognition of his win, when suddenly the earth beneath Naruto's feet broke, and two hands clasped Naruto's legs, dragging him down. Sarutobi appeared looming over Naruto. The false Sarutobi poofed, revealing itself to be a fake and a ploy. You put up a good fight, but now it ends. Sarutobi was interrupted when the Naruto and the earth erupted into smoke. Naruto was seen about 10 meters away from Sarutobi with his eyes watching him intently. Sarutobi was thinking a mile minute. How is this possible? It's simply impossible for him to substitute so quickly, and I not notice the influx in chakra, unless Jinjutsu? Kai, he yelled. Immediately the illusion was disrupted, revealing a perfectly clean, intact arena, as if the whole battle scene had never took place. But Sarutobi was no fool. He quickly muttered an additional Kai, disrupting the second illusion. Sarutobi was left standing in the middle of arena with Naruto on the other side. How? Questioned Naruto. Sarutobi rose an eyebrow. How did I realize it was a double-layered Jinjutsu? Simple, my boy. It was a small mistake on your part. It was very possible that at the start of the battle you put me through Jinjutsu, and that the whole fight was through the work of your Jinjutsu. But it failed to explain the crowd's reaction in the stands. There was no way you, who never met my shinobi, could accurately predict their reactions. Knowing this, I concluded at the very least that part must have been real, destroying your illusion. However, Sarutobi was not finished. Forgive me, my child. Now that I know how gifted you truly are, Naruto, I can no longer hold back against you. Immediately, the air around Sarutobi began to distort. Rocks, pebbles, and small boulders began to levitate and break under the pressure of Sarutobi's chakra. Tendrils of blue chakra began to widely whip the ground, leaving scars until all of the chakra subsided and moved to a calm state surrounding the aged Hokage. He now held a blue glow around himself. I see. So you've finally taken me seriously, Inni? Naruto held a smirk of full confidence. Sarutobi's eyes narrowed. Even with me unleashing my chakra, he still has full confidence in his win. It seems I was right about the boy's arrogance. Such a shame. You would have made a fine Hokage. Sarutobi flashed through some hand seals and yelled, summoning jutsu. A large plum of smoke appeared, and when it finally died, standing in all his glory was the Monkey King, Emma. You've called me to fight a mere boy? I must say you've grown senile in your old age, my friend. Emma joked. Sarutobi spoke seriously, showing the reason why he reigned for Hokage so long. Emma, this boy is not to be taken lightly. He is a dangerous threat who must be dealt with as accordingly. Emma, realizing the situation, nodded and transformed into an adamant staff. Naruto looked on curiously. This was the first time he seen Enma. Of course, he heard of him in the academy, but seeing him firsthand was surreal. Naruto quickly raced through another hand seal and yelled, "Water style, great exploding water colliding waves." Immediately, Naruto unleashed a large torrent of water that quickly flooded entire arena. Sarutobi's eyes narrowed. This boy knows all my abilities, while I know little to none about his. I see now he challenged me knowing full well of capabilities and planned accordingly. This will not be an easy battle. So far he used lava release, meaning he can use earth and fire release. Although assuming the fact that he used it once could mean it drains a lot of his chakra, or he's a novice at that skill, he seems to be more proficient in water release. If his early feat is anything to go by, and he used a wind style attack already, it's not that hard of a gamble to assume he can use all 5 element And that may just be surface of his power. He may have other techniques, like that Shinra Tensei. Why not use the technique again? It has devastating attack. Is there a time limit? Does it require a substantial amount of chakra? Can he only use it one time? There's no point in overthinking it. Guess I'll just have to wing it. Sarutobi dashed forward with speed. An aged man should not posses. Naruto seemed to have expected and anticipate this to happen and yelled, "Water style, water dragon bullet." A dragon head immediately formed and launched a barrage of water blasts towards Sarutobi. Sarutobi managed to dodge and evade every blast with great flexibility and continued his race towards Naruto, not slowing down in the slightest. If anything, he picked up speed. Naruto's golden Rinnegan eyes showed great surprise. It seemed he was not prepared for Sarutobi to be able to maneuver around those blasts so easily. Naruto released his jutsu. Sarutobi rose an eyebrow in confusion, but wasted no time and continued his advance. Naruto held his hand out. Sarutobi froze immediately and jumped away, fearing it was the deadly Shinra Tensei. Naruto muttered calmly, "Rain across the frosty heaven, Hirinmaru." An immaculate katana of tremendous craftsmanship appeared in Naruto's hand. The hilt was blue and the blade was a pearly white. Sarutobi's eyes narrowed. Where exactly did that katana appear from? Storage seal? No, it's not that. It appears to be some type of sentient sword. Whatever it is, I must be careful. This boy is dangerous and full of surprises. Sarutobi dashed forward, lashing out with his staff. Both weapons clashed fiercely, creating sparks and shock waves. With each swing, shock waves of energy radiated throughout the arena, forcing the water to violently splash against itself. Naruto slashed downward, but Sarutobi showed great expertise and blocked the strike, and quickly spun on his heel, knocking the katana to the side, leaving Naruto unbalanced for a split second. Sarutobi followed up by delivering a viscous side kick to Naruto's abdomen. Naruto fell to the ground. Sarutobi advanced and swung his staff downward for a knockout blow. Naruto quickly recovered and pointed his finger from this grounded position and yelled, "Destructive Art 4, White Lightning." Immediately, a blast of pure white lightning flew through Naruto's pointed figure. Sarutobi quickly moved his staff in front of himself to deflect the blow, but the blow was so strong that he was lifted off his feet and blasted to the other side of the arena. Sarutobi laid in a crater in the side of arena with smoke rolling of his body. Naruto slowly got to his feet and glanced at Sarutobi, wondering if had finally beaten the aged Hokage. He slowly and cautiously walked with his katana firmly in his grasp towards Sarutobi's position. He finally got to Sarutobi's position. He was not shocked to find that Sarutobi turned into mud, revealing this to be another ploy to lure himself in. He immediately hopped back to retreat and gain distance, but was stopped when Sarutobi appeared behind with his staff poised for attack. Naruto quickly yelled, "Shinra Tensei." Sarutobi was blasted once more and skidded on the water to regain his balance. He got up, albeit slowly and gingerly. Sarutobi's eyes widened in confusion. He doesn't need his hands to cast the jutsu. What are its weaknesses? He wondered with irritation. Naruto decided to take the offensive and swung his sword in a downward arc. A magnificent dragon of pure ice was launched towards Sarutobi. Sarutobi quickly dived to left to avoid the attack and quickly analyzed the situation. His strong point seems to be ninjutsu and jinjutsu. He is at least mid-jonin in terms of proficiency in kenjutsu, and his taijutsu has yet to be seen. The obvious choice of attack would be close combat, but that damn jutsu repels everything away from him. This is quite the conundrum. Maybe if we are on solid surface, I could attempt to stick to the ground. But he changed a whole arena to a water playing field. I'm greatly at a disadvantage. In the stands. Everyone shinobi in the stand were dead quiet in anticipation. None expected the genin to even last this long, let alone be winning against the Hokage. Who would have thought the kid would be winning against my old man? Guess you can't judge a book by its cover, said Asuma. Many jounin nodded in agreement. Naruto-kun, flames of youth burn brightly to fight our leader so valiantly on equally ground at such a young age is astonishing. His flame burned brighter than ever. Yasha must find my inner youth to catch up to Naruto-kun, cried Guy animatedly. So the kid will win? Asked Kurenai, who was desperately trying to overcome the shock of what she was witnessing. I really don't know. That kid could be one of the greatest strategists we have ever seen. Think about it, the kid came in the underdog. We all knew he was above average, but we never thought this. I'm guessing the kid planned this for a while. In the academy, it's normal for you to learn about the Hokages. So Naruto came here with a full understanding and knowledge of the Hokage's skills and battle style. While we on the other hand knew next to nothing about him, most of the fight was trying to discover his fighting style, and so far it's safe to conclude his ninjutsu is his strongest, followed closely by Jinjutsu, then Kenjutsu. However, it taken a toll on the Hokage to fight this kid because he underestimated him, forcing him to needlessly spend chakra and not fight as seriously as if we was to say fight against a known elite shinobi, added Genma. Many started to get worried for the aged Hokage, believing this to be his last battle. Kakashi decided to put his 2 cents in. I wouldn't count Hokage-sama out just yet. It's true Naruto is greatly gifted, perhaps the most gifted shinobi we have ever encountered, but he's lacking severely in experience. It's true he's winning the battle now because of his vast skills and enormous ability in ninjutsu and chakra reserves. But he can't seem to end the fight in his favor, something our Hokage took notice of. If this goes on for long, Naruto will lose, even though he has more chakra of the two. But he's been launching high-level jutsu since the start off the fight. It must be taking its toll on him. So Hokage-sama is trying to stall? Asked Kurenai. That's my guess. We can only wait and see. Back in the arena, Naruto kept on a face of indifference. Other than his labored breathing, he looked perfectly fine. The Hokage, on the other hand, was tattered with bruises and scraps, but looked strong nonetheless. Naruto dropped to one knee and stabbed his katana in the water. The water began to freeze over until the whole arena was frozen. It seems you've reached your limits, young Naruto. You won't be able to continue for much longer, spoke Sarutobi gravely. Naruto rose to his feet defiantly. How quickly you forget, Sarutobi. I have an unlimited amount chakra inside me at my disposal. You can thank Father for that. Sarutobi's eyes widened. He knew the child was not bluffing. He was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, but he never in his right mind expected him to have access to the Kyuubi at age 13, let alone know how to control its power. If he were to use the Kyuubi power, he would surely win. Shit, muttered Sarutobi under his breath. Sarutobi's eyes narrowed, and he sped across the iced field. Naruto swung his sword, and the field acted towards his will. The ground erupted with ice spears, forcing Sarutobi to jump to high grounds. He's preventing me from engaging him in close combat. This is going to be hard, Sarutobi thought. Enma, I need you in that form. Enma nodded, understood. Sarutobi quickly tossed Enma into the air, and with a large explosion of smoke, Enma quickly transformed once more, but this time he was an ape. But of different portion, he was so massive he made Gamabunta look relatively small in comparison. I never would have expected you to have pushed me this far, Naruto, but it's about time I finished this battle, said Sarutobi on top of Enma's head. Sarutobi went through a series of hand signs. Fire-style secret art, roar of the Ape King. Enma and Sarutobi held their hands in a ram seal and unleashed a large gargantuan inferno of flames. The flames destroyed and consumed everything in its path, leaving nothing left. There was no way possible Naruto could have survived if it hit. Kakashi, if you wow, dashed. Sarutobi's eyes widened and his heart sank when he heard a large laughter. What an impressive jutsu, Hokage-sama. However, if I may be so bold and presumptuous as to offer you advice, I would suggest you work on your aim a little bit more, said Naruto with a smug grin. What are you talking about, Naruto? There's no way I could have missed you. You should be dead right now, said Sarutobi with full seriousness. It's quite simple, really. I knew the true reason why you summoned Enma. Sarutobi's eyes widened greatly. So you knew how I used him to negate your Jinjutsus. Indeed, that was very wise decision of you, Hokage-sama. However, I discovered one interesting detail. You must be in contact with Enma at all times for you to be immune my Jinjutsus, said Naruto. That does not make this since I was never out of contact with Enma. No, you couldn't have. Finally, it dawned on Sarutobi. When I launched Enma in the air for the jutsu, you used your Jinjutsu? Correct. With those words, the Jinjutsu was unraveled. The field was still encased in ice, showing the attack never hit. Enma was in his giant ape form, but was now encased in a frozen block of ice. Sarutobi was on his knees, breathing very hard. That attack was S-rank forbidden technique. It utilized all of the remaining chakra the user had and some of his life force along with some of the summons as well. In the audience, "What the hell is going on?" yelled Anko. "Yeah, why did Hokage-sama just shoot his strongest attack in the air when he could have beaten the kid?" "I see none of you were able to see it, huh?" Kakashi asked. Everyone immediately snapped their heads towards Kakashi. "What do you mean, Scarecrow?" demanded Anko. "Think about what the kid's strongest suits are," instructed Kakashi. "What does that have to with anything? I didn't see him use any ninjutsu to deflect the blast. Does that mean he used jinjutsu?" High in the heat of the battle, Naruto managed to ensnare Hokage-sama in a jinjutsu and forced him to alter the direction of his attack. "Wait, there's no way that's possible. Whenever the Hokage is connected to his summon, he is immune to all forms of jinjutsu." Kakashi responded lazily. "That's true. The Hokage was well aware of Naruto's skill in jinjutsu. That's why he made that statement. Now that I know how gifted you truly are, Naruto, I can no longer hold back against you." And if you recall, the next thing he did was summon Enma to negate Naruto's jinjutsu abilities. However, the reason was simple: to break jinjutsu, one must disrupt the flow of the jinjutsu, or an ally must do it for them. So when Enma and Hokage-sama are working together in unison, their chakra automatically disrupt the flow of any foreign chakra, so jinjutsu is useless. However, to be able to place the Hokage in jinjutsu in that limited amount of time when he threw Enma is no easy feat. The user must be extremely skilled to pull off such a thing. Collectively, they thought in unison. "Damn, the Gaki is good," said Anko. "Indeed," added Kakashi. Back in the arena, "I must say, Naruto, you have exceeded all my expectation. However, there is a reason why I became, and still am, the Hokage," stated Sarutobi. "Stop your bluffing. Very little can cloud my eyes. You are clearly out of chakra," Naruto responded. And as if hearing the words spoken, the Rinnegan shone with bright intensity. "That's true, I am out of chakra. You appear to be low on it as well. However, my partner is not." "Enma!" roared Sarutobi. Immediately, Enma, in his giant form, broke out of his ice prison and began gathering chakra from what appeared to be everywhere. It seemed as if he was calling directly to nature, and it was giving him the necessary chakra. He quickly finished and yelled, "Supernova!" belching a large supernova, it shot towards Naruto with lightning speed. Naruto looked on impassively and closed his eyes. He slowly opened them and placed both his hands in front of himself and yelled a familiar jutsu. "Shinra Tensei!" The supernova was blasted in upward direction to sky, where it finally detonated, creating a large mushroom cloud, leveling everything on the ground. Sarutobi and Naruto were forced to shield their eyes from the blast radius. Multiple trees were uprooted from the devastating attack. Naruto sighed. He truly had not expected this. He was at the end of his rope. He was running low on chakra. He knew he wasn't going to be able to go on for much longer. He had to finish it now. "You forced my hand, Sarutobi. There is a reason why the Rakuto Sannin was revered like no other. He transcended all boundaries because of his eyes, the very eyes I possess, the eyes that gave birth to the ninja world and ninjutsu itself. All ninjutsu is available to me." Naruto flashed through a long series of hand seals and yelled, pouring a great deal of chakra into his jutsu. "Wood release, ultimate tree bind, flourishing burial." The effects were instantaneous. Trees began to sprout from the ground, breaking the ice, destroying everything. They began to wrap around and constrict Enma in his giant form. Enma roared and thrashed around helplessly. Naruto focused harder and continued to pour more chakra into the jutsu. The jutsu reacted to its creator's will and grew rapidly. It was now fully at the giant's waist, preventing him from moving. Sarutobi, for his part, quickly recovered over his shock from seeing the famed Mokuton release and raced towards Naruto, intent on ending it before Enma was fully submerged. Naruto, seeing Sarutobi approaching, smirked. He began to mutter a quick incantation: "Carriage of thunder, bridge of a spinning wheel. With light, divide this into six." Six thin, wide beams of light slammed into Sarutobi, halting all his movements. Naruto dropped to ground, gasping for air. Would release of this caliber on such a large target was a tedious task, especially in his dilapidated state. Enma roared once more, seeing Naruto in his weakened state, and struggled harder under his confines. Shit, I don't have enough chakra to finish him with this jutsu. He won't be able to move for the time being. There's no other option. Naruto went through one seal and muttered, "Shadow clone jutsu." Immediately 5 clones poofed into existence. Naruto nodded to them, and each began to perform a different string of hand seal. Naruto quickly went back to the ram seal and continued push more chakra into retaining Enma in one spot. The clones finally finished. Each yelled a different jutsu. Lava style, lava dragon. Ice style, ice dragon. Fire style, fire dragon bullet. Earth style, earth dragon bullet. Wind style, divine wind dragon. Naruto watched as each dragon hit its target. The strength of the attack blasted Naruto himself away and destroyed the shadow clones in the process. The shock waves were so strong that it uprooted and eradicated all of the trees created by Naruto's jutsu. There was a resounding boom that occurred, leaving everyone waiting eagerly and guessing to see the outcome. Naruto was struggling to breathe. He was battered, bruised, cuts, scraps everywhere. His once groomed, elegant hair was matted with sticks and burns. He was drenched in his sweat. His clothes were clumped to his body as a result. He was physically tired and exhausted. He knew the effects of the attack, but he was left with no option. He looked on with satisfaction, seeing Enma no longer there. He was forced to return back to the summon world. His eyes dropped when he saw Sarutobi standing on the other side, no longer with the bindings. He too was greatly injured. The aged man's armor was destroyed, leaving his bare chest showing. He no longer had any shoes. Both were destroyed by the blast. His torso sported severe burns, likely from the previous attacks. His breathing was greatly labored. He was trying desperately to regulate his breathing. It seemed like both parties were on their last legs. Naruto for himself was completely out of chakra, his Rinnegan deactivating right after his final attack. Sarutobi and Naruto both watched the other intently. None of the warriors had enough energy to move a finger, let alone fight. It would come to who had enough energy to stand the longest. The audience waited on bated breath. This battle would shape the course of destiny and history. After what appeared to be a lifetime, there was resounding thud echoed through the building. The body dropped. Shit, Naruto murmured. There on the floor was Sarutobi's unconscious body. You put up a good fight, Hokage-sama. The whole arena was dead silent. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect the kid to win. This was unfathomable. Kakashi immediately dropped to the ground and walked to the unconscious Sarutobi to verify his condition. He soon made his way towards Naruto and stated, "Under Article 13b of the Konoha Constitution, you Naruto Namikes are the new Hokage." Naruto glanced towards Kakashi and said with full seriousness, "No, I will not become the Hokage. I will become the king of Konoha. Konoha is now under my rule. As stated in article, I may rule the village however I deem fit. Address your new ruler as Supreme Emperor." Chapter 2. Dawn of a New Age. Council Room. The room was in full attendance. All of Konoha's most prestigious clans, with the exception of the Uchiha clan and Senju clan, made their appearance. Naruto was seated in the Hokage chair. However, it was redecorated. Instead of the normal chair per norm, it now resembled what appeared to be a throne made out entirely of pure gold. Naruto's attire changed. As well, he now sported a new cloak that matched his golden hair. Naruto spoke gracefully and fluid, devoid of any doubt or any hesitation. His whole body and aura exuded confidence, borderline arrogance. As my first decree as Supreme Emperor, I am disbanding both the Shinobi and Civilian Council. The reactions were instantaneous. The normally stoic Hayashi voiced his outrage. "How dare you, boy? The second Hokage created this council. It was ensured so that we always held some power in decision waging, that of the good of Konoha." Naruto looked on impassively towards Hayashi's silence. "The true reason for the council was for you to act as advisor. You were only supposed to aid the Hokage with advice. However, over the time you decided that was not enough and chose to expand your power. However, unlike my predecessor, I will not sit idly and become the puppet of the council. If any of you have any problem, feel free to consult my umbu. They will be most helpful in accommodating you to the afterlife. Hayashi's eyes narrowed, the veins by eyes bulged, signifying that activation of his Byakugan, one of 3 legendary dojutsu, and he spoke in a low, cold, calculated, measured tone as if he was poised, ready to strike if the answer did not meet his expectation. Are you threatening me, boy? Naruto smiled cruelly and said, almost surprised in a condescending demeanor. As a matter of fact, I am. With lightning quick, blinding speed, Naruto vanished from the majority of the shinobi vision and appeared before Hayashi with Hyarimuru with the tip of blade pointed at Hayashi's exposed throat, prepared to follow through with the looming threat. Hayashi, once cold eyes, showed unbridled fear. Hayashi, allow me to make myself abundantly clear. Your disrespect and insolence will not be tolerated. Let this be a lesson and warning to all those who oppose my rule. Any traitors will be dealt swiftly and accordingly. Are there any questions? The whole council room remained deathly silent, although if you strained your hearing hard enough, you could hear various members swallow thickly. Good. All of you will arrive at the training ground 7. You are now dismissed. With that being said, the council heads quickly fled the throne room. Naruto looked onto the remaining shinobis that were still in attendance. Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo Shimura Kahaku, and Hamura were the only ones that remained. Naruto glanced at the 2 elders curiously. I suppose you 2 are to be my advisors. Hi, my lord, spoke Hamura and Koharu in unison. Very good. However, I've found a more suitable pair advisors. You 2 are relieved of your duty. As of now, my new advisors are to be Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo Shimura. Hamura and Koharu looked ready to protest. However, a sharp glare from Naruto halted them in their tracks. Hi, my lord, if that is all. Naruto nodded to them, and the 2 elders made their exit. Naruto looked upon his 2 new advisors, the former leader of the village, his predecessor Hiruzen Sarutobi, and Danzo Shimura, the leader of the supposedly disbanded route. As leader of the village, Naruto currently held access to all of the events that transpired in his village, and with the use of his shadow clones, he was quickly up to date. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the 3rd Hokage Kami no Shinobi. You will aid me in all political matters concerning the ninja world, and you, Danzo, will aid me in enforcing my rule. Sarutobi, you are dismissed. You are currently on leave to recuperate from your wounds. Spend your time wisely. Hi, my lord, thank you. With those words, Sarutobi left, as well, leaving Danzo and Naruto alone. That was quite the performance. Konoha requires a strong ruler like you. A shame your father died so early. He was a remarkable leader. You remind of him, said Danzo, dripping with saccharin. Naruto activated his Rinnegan. The intensity of his eyes would have made any lesser man crumple, but Danzo remained standing defiantly. Danzo, I'm in no mood for games. I've called you here to see where your loyalty lies. With this, Naruto's eyes increased pressure, analyzing every detail about Danzo, his breathing, his blinking rate, his heart beat to the movement of his hand. Danzo spoke sharply and firmly. My loyalties have always and will always lie with Konoha. That is most reassuring. Take solace in the fact that I believe you. Danzo, I am aware that you play a valuable and pivotal role governing this village. I'm not blinded to the truth of the shinobi world. However, I'm going to make this very clear. If you cross me in any manner of speaking, I will kill you. Understood. With this said, Naruto rose from his elevated seat, poised like a god ready to deliver righteous divine judgment. Danzo, instead of being angry, fearful, or put off by the threat, he smiled a genuine smile and said, Hi, I understand, my lord. That smile did not go unnoticed by Naruto. Do you acknowledge me as your leader, Danzo? I will not lie. Prior to meeting you, I believe the idea that a mere boy dictating this village was ludicrous, ridiculous, perhaps even insanity, regardless of your surprising feat in defeating Sarutobi. However, as I see you firsthand, I can't help myself but to slowly believe in your leadership. You are the type of leader Konoha needs, charismatic and loved by the people, but deadly and ruthless shinobi when need be. Naruto nodded his head slowly. Words were just that, words. This pleases me, Danzo. I must say that this is coming from you. This is most surprising. You are guileful, deceitful, shrewd, pragmatic, perhaps duplicitous, and you are seen as a detestable person. However, if there is one irrefutable truth concerning you I am to believe, above all else your loyalty to Konoha is never wavering. All that you do is for the benefit of Konoha. However, Danzo, I am cognizant in your role concerning the Uchiha clan massacre as well as your disbanded root organization. Danzo made no visible reaction to the insinuation but spoke in a monotone, measured voice and said, I see. Do you plan to disband Root, or do you plan to kill me altogether? Naruto waved his hand dismissively and spoke calmly reassuring. I apprised you once before, Danzo. I am aware to the truth of the shinobi world, and all your deeds were done for the benefit of Konoha. Disbanding Root would be a foolish decision. However, I will not allow you to acquire any more Root agents. It would project Konoha negatively in a horrible light if we were seen to use orphans to do our bidding. Danzo nodded his head in understanding. If that is all, my lord. Danzo, you are not dismissed yet. There are few things I wish to discuss with you. By all means, my lord, what is it? Spoke Danzo in sort of politically neutral tone. I told you I knew the truth of Uchiha massacre. I find myself baffled to sudden disappearance in all the deceased Uchihas who had activated the Sharingan. And with my Rinnegan, I can see the various type of chakra flowing through your right arm and eye. Naruto eyed Danzo carefully, waiting to gauge his reaction. However, Danzo masked his emotion expertly and responded. Do you believe I had a hand in the disappearance of the Yuke Dash? Danzo was interrupted when Naruto suddenly swung his katana with alarming speed. Because of the fact he was unprepared for such an assault, he was not ready to move, and Naruto successfully lopped his right arm off. Danzo grunted in pain and displeasure. The force of the blow knocked him to the ground. He clutched his right shoulder in an attempt to subdue the bleeding. Naruto calmly walked towards the arm. He swung his katana once more to break the contraption that surrounded the arm. After further inspection, he was not surprised to see Danzo's right arm implanted with many Sharingans. Naruto sighed tiredly and flashed through a series of hand seals and muttered calmly. Fire style, fireball jutsu. A small ball of flames erupted from his mouth and incinerated the arm, only to leave ash and a scorch mark on the floor. Danzo, from his down position, began to unwrap the bandages on his right eye. He was forced to halt his movements when he was reacquainted with an all-too familiar katana positioned across his neck. He looked up to see Naruto's Rinnegan eyes blazing with full power, ready to eradicate him if need be. It would seem, you hand an arm in the disappearance of the Uchiha clan, and not only a hand, quipped Naruto. So you plan to kill me, huh? I will not beg. All I do for Konoha. I am her protector. Naruto retracted his sword and began to go through a series of hand seals and said quietly, Inyang art, age of rebirth. With those words, Naruto touched Danzo's shoulder, and in a quick instant a new arm was formed in Danzo's right socket. Naruto got up to his feet and retreated to this throne. He sat down and rested his head upon his fist in a what to do with you kind of fashion, clearly tired and bored with the whole predicament at hand. Danzo slowly got up to his feet and flexed his hand, wrist, shoulder, and to his amazement it felt as good as new. He felt completely rejuvenated. He eyed Naruto careful as well as flabbergasted and asked the resounding question. Why? Naruto rose an eyebrow, clearly a bit amused as well as annoyed. I told you before, Danzo, when I made you my advisor you will aid me in enforcing my rule. However, I will not be made a fool of by anyone. This is your one and final warning, heed it. If you ever attempt to deceive or hide any matter to me, regardless of how minute it may be, it will result in your immediate demise. But seeing as there was no real harm done, I've decided to gift you with a Kekii Genkai. That right arm is not a normal arm. It is gifted with the water affinity, and if I am correct in my understanding you have a wind affinity. With enough time I'm sure you will be able to use Hoyoten release. Danzo, for his part, was simply astonished and amazed. Never before in his life had he seen such a thing. Is this the Rinnegan's ability? Hi. It is one of the ability that's gifted to me because of the Rinnegan. I myself, I am not aware of all the abilities that are awarded to me through the Rinnegan. However, through these eyes, I will bring Konoha and the world into a new era, where I reign as the undisputed king. In this world, there will be no need for war and poverty. I will create the perfect utopian society. I am no fool, Danzo. A world like this cannot be achieved by one man alone. That is why I am asking you, Danzo, will you aid me in my attempt for a new world order? Danzo, from his position, was captivated by Naruto. He seemed to radiate such power and confidence. He was practically glowing with an otherworldly light. He spoke with great discipline and dropped to both knees prostrated, with his head bowed submissively, and said respectfully, "Hi, my lord. I will aid you for the rest of my life. I will ensure that your dream sees fruition as the roots of the village. I will be the foundation that secures your victory, my lord." Naruto slowly arose from his throne and descended the 3 short steps until he stood before Danzo. Danzo, however, kept his gaze locked on the floor, refusing to make eye contact, until Naruto gently placed one hand on each side of Danzo's face and lifted his head to reach his gaze and said softly, almost intimately and affectionately, "Your resolve is to be admired, Danzo. Through your help, Konoha will reach heights which before seemed unattainable. Arise, Danzo. You are the roots that supports the trees of Konoha, but through my power, I will bring the once dark roots into a new light, where it can bask in the sun's rays. From this day forward, Danzo, I expect you to show complete loyalty towards your supreme emperor above all else. You're no longer Konoha's child, but my most trusted advisor. See to it you never force me to regret my trust in you." Danzo struggled to form a word, his face clearly displaying immense gratitude. He could only help but nod dumbly. The next day at Training Ground 7. Naruto was walking towards Training Ground, where he was accompanied by both Sarutobi and Danzo. They finally reached their destination. The whole training ground was filled with shinobi of all ages and heights. Every currently active shinobi was at attendance, and all clan members were also there. The Aburame clan, Akimichi clan, Hyuga clan, Inazuka clan, Kahaku clan, Kurama clan, Sarutobi clan, Yamanaka clan were all there. Naruto peered through all the shinobi with his Rinnegan. The Rinnegan, being the father of Sharingan, also has the analytical abilities of the Sharingan eyes. Naruto could remember faces and jutsu, and they would be engraved in his memory forever. Naruto calmly went through some hand seals and waved his hand, and immediately a wooden chair sprouted from the ground, which Naruto simply sat in. He looked on impassively. Throughout the years of Konoha's existence, we believed firmly in the will of fire, that to be our greatest source of strength. However, throughout the years, our belief has been the reason for our greatest failures. Countless of times, our will of fire belief has been the reason for the demise of many of our greatest shinobis. The first Hokage foolishly believed that he could buy peace. He held the ability to control and subdue all bijus. However, he decided to split the beasts equally through out the 5 great nations instead of conquering them, believing that he could satisfy the needs of the other rivaling nations peacefully. And instead of gratitude, the nations we gifted bijus with have abused those very gifts in attempt to secure our destruction. They have failed time again, but not without taking countless of lives with them. And look at us now, the once mighty Konoha has diminished greatly. Our 2 founding clans are left with 1 loyal member each, both on the verge of extinction. The last of the Senju clan is an old, battered woman who wallows in her self-pity because of her deceased loved ones. The sheer notion is foolish. We are well aware the dangers we face as shinobi. And the last of the mighty Uchiha clan is a mere boy who is bent on erasing the other member of his once mighty clan and has yet to activate the renowned Sharingan his clan is famed for. Naruto took a breath to gauge the reaction of his shinobi. Many saw the truth of his words. A great deal slowly nodded their head in agreement, seeing the logic in his words, while others chose to ignore it, clinging to their ideals. My people, I dream of world where violence and bloodshed is no longer a part of human life. I dream of world where we do not have to commit such heinous acts to protect the people we love. I dream for a world where the ninja world and class system no longer exist. Many shinobi gasped and shouted in outrage. Naruto calmly turned his head towards Danzo and nodded, and with the snap of Danzo's finger, multiple shinobi ranging in the 100 appeared behind Naruto. All were root members. Everyone went into a stunned silence. Even Sarutobi looked surprised. My people, through my power, I plan to unite the 5 great nations under one mighty empire. And when I succeed, the ninja world shall fail to exist. There will be no reason to build troops and fight pointless battles. We will finally be able to live in peace, and there will be no needless and pointless deaths. And how do you plan on bringing the 5 nations together? Hayashi asked hotly. Naruto smiled towards Hayashi and said, Simple, I'm going to conquer all of them. With my power, I will reshape this world to benefit me, and those who oppose me will die. Hayashi's eyes narrowed. He could no longer hide his anger or disgust. He spoke quickly and passionately. What you propose is world domination. Naruto spoke quickly. And what of it? What is wrong with the idea of uniting the world under one person? Your eyes are deluded and myopic. You cannot see the bigger the picture. But my eyes are different. I envision a world where I won't have to subjugate children, kids to train at such young age just so they have a chance of living in this accursed world. I envision a world where we can come to understand one another as brethren. I envision a world where the so-called peace we speak of truly exists. My people, what I say to you is no easy task. However, through your help and our united power, this world will be ours for the taking. Hayashi once more voiced his concern. I can no longer listen to your senseless drivel. I formally challenge you. Although I'm not of direct blood of any pre-existing Kage, I am of noble blood that should be enough to appease the council. Naruto sighed animatedly. My, how quickly you forget the council has been disbanded. I control everything existing in this village, schools, shops. Every district in Konoha is now under my direct command. Even your compound is under my rule. You have no power to oppose me. This is my village, and I'm allowing you to live in it. The very air you breathe right now is a token of my generosity. However, I will indulge you in your little battle. I will not use my Rinnegan or any Kekkei Genkai posses against you to give you a fighting chance. So, it's true your arrogance knows no boundaries. You assume because you beat our Hokage you believe you have enough power to defeat me without your Kekkei Genkai. You are a fool. Naruto spoke elegantly and said, You are the fool to assume you know the limit and depth of my power. Who's to say I showed a fraction of my skills? A ninja's greatest asset is deception, no? Who's to say I didn't hide off a fraction of my abilities? As the Kyuubi's Jichikariki, I do have access to its power. Why did I not use it? Wouldn't it have made my victory easier? It could only mean that I was assured of my victory and forego using it. All ninjutsu is available to me. It will do you well to remember your place, and it's far beneath me. Enough, I've grown tired of your senseless babble. With those words, Hayashi charged with his hand poised for the kill. His Byakugan was flaring wildly, correspondent with his anger. Naruto did not move from his seated position, and he calmly activated his Rinnegan, and suddenly Hayashi felt a great wave of pressure hit him. He dropped to all fours and was in the kneeling position. Hayashi spoke through gritted teeth and said angrily, You said you wouldn't use your bloodline abilities. Naruto smiled cruelly and said with an amused, sinister smile, I lied. What fool would honestly believe anything his opponent tells him? Didn't I tell you a ninja greatest tool was deceit? And now look at you groveling in the dirt. It suits you well. I do recall telling you, your place was beneath me. It feels refreshing to have obedient subordinates who know their place. Ho, it seemed you are quite good at bowing to your superior after all. All you needed was a little discipline, don't you think? No smart retort? What's the matter there, Hayashi-kun? Are you having trouble breathing? Anko's eyes narrowed. She had a feeling she'd seen this man before. The resemblance were uncanny. Although they looked nothing alike, they both held such similarities. Both were ruthless and hated any forms of disobedience more than anything, and they were quick to act if the need should arise, excessively so. Both were highly gifted shinobi, and above all else they knew what it meant to be a shinobi and would use any underhand trick they needed to ensure they win. She hated Naruto. He reminded her too much of Orochimaru. Her eyes were glaring at him with righteous fury, something Naruto took notice of. He gave Anko a charming smile and asked with concern, Is there something the matter, Anko-san? Anko's eyes narrowed once more. That smile, it's fake. I can see through you. He masks all his emotion greatly. It's hard to tell what he is thinking. It was the same with Orochimaru. I used to always think he cared for me, but I know all that was a lie. I will not be put through this pain again. I'll have to kill him now before he can achieve his twisted ambitions. Anko wasted no time and went through a series of hand seals and yelled, "Hidden shadow snake hands." Naruto smiled maliciously. The snakes wrapped around Naruto and constricted all of his movements. Naruto, however, began to shed his skin until he resembled a man Anko knew all too well, Orochimaru. With quick speed, Orochimaru's tongue lashed out and wrapped around Anko's neck, restricting her breathing. She spoke between pants of breath and asked, "What are you doing here?" Is that any way to talk to your long-lost Sensei Anko-chan? Cut the crap, Orochimaru, what are you here for? Simple, my dear. I'm here to kill you. With that, Orochimaru held out the legendary Kasangi and beheaded Anko. Anko let out a piercing scream. "What's the matter, Anko?" asked a wary Kurenai. Anko quickly glanced around the field and realized everyone was staring at her. She glanced at Naruto, and he gave her a knowing smirk. I see all of that was his illusion. Orochimaru was never here, thought Anko. Naruto strolled calmly to Anko until he was standing over her. He knelt down and placed his hand on her cheek and asked in a concerned voice, "Are you all right, Anko?" Anko pulled her face away from Naruto's hand and spoke angrily, "I'm fine." Naruto gave her a heartwarming smile, "I am glad." Anko's mind was going a mile a minute. What's the hell is with this kid? He puts me in a jinjutsu, then asks me if I'm okay. Is all this an act? I just don't know. Everyone was interrupted by a sudden man's late appearance. "Oh hey, Naruto. I'm sorry, a black cat had crossed my street, so I had to take the long way around and then dash." Naruto lifted his pointer finger towards Kakashi and spoke coldly. Destructive Art 4, White Lightning. A bolt of lightning shot forward at Kakashi with lightning speed. Get it, 'cause it lightning him, such a nerd. Back to the story. Kakashi just barely managed to avoid the bolt of lightning. However, his precious book was not as luckily. Naruto spoke once more in a stern voice, although quite surprised, "I missed. Kakashi, your lack of discipline will not be tolerated. See to it that you're on time next time, or there very well may not be a next time, and more importantly, never again speak my name so lightly." He whispered the last part dangerously. That bolt of lightning, he was really aiming to kill. What a ruthless man. Kakashi thought sadly as well as worriedly. "Understood, my lord." With those words, Kakashi walked into the mass of shinobi crowd. Naruto looked on impassively to the crowd and rose from his seated position. Everyone watched cautiously. Naruto spoke calmly and kept his stoic face. "Now that everyone is in attendance, I will discuss the new arrangement. As of today, the current ninja system is disbanded." "How can you do this, my lord?" asked Kurenai. "What will we do if foreign nins invade us?" "Please reconsider," pleaded a random shinobi. "Silence. I am fully reconstructing our military force as of right now. Humo is likely militarily stronger than us. However, if we were to go to war, the likely outcome is both nations would be destroyed. They wouldn't dare challenge us. So for the time being, we are safe. We will be using this time to build our military power. I am changing the whole curricular of our shinobi force. As of now, Umbu is disbanded. Root will be handling all outside mission until I deem it no longer necessary. All jonin who have not mastered 2 elemental affinity, with the exceptions of Shikaka Nara, Might Guy, and Inoichi Yamanaka, the rest of you have been demoted to Chunin. As of now, I am implanting the captain system. The captain will be the very elite of the village. They will be my generals. There will be 12 captain in total for 12 different divisions. Each captain will have a division under his rule to govern. Each captain must be at least high A rank shinobi. They will have a vice captain who must be at least high B rank, and a third commander who is at least jonin in term of strength and proficiency. It is up to the captain to pick his vice captain, and further on, the captain position can be challenged at any time by any other Konoha shinobi if the need should arise. Each captain squadron will consist of 1 A rank ninja, a high B rank ninja, 5 jonin, and 35 chunins. Captain of the 2nd Division will be Hiruzen Sarutobi. His squadron will be the Sarutobi clan. Captain of the 3rd Division will Danzo Shimura. His squadron will be Root. Captain of the 4th Division will be Kurenai. She will lead the Kurama clan. Captain of the 5th Division will be Kakashi Hitaki. He will lead the former Umbu unit. Captain of the 6th Division will be Might Guy. He will be the leader of Inuzuka clan. Captain of the 7th Division will be Hayashi Hyuga. He will be the leader of the Hyuga clan. The rest of the captain are currently on leave and will be revealed in time. As of now, all shinobi are put on notice. All jonin must acquire and master 2 elements. Under the repertoire, they must have at least 5 jutsu in each element. Chunin must master at least 1 element, and they must master 5 elemental jutsu. The academy itself will be reformed as well. To graduate, the student must understand the concept of their elemental affinity and master 1 jutsu in correlation to their element. Those who fail to do so will be terminated from the ninja program. Danzo hand out the captain cloak to all the captains. All captains will wear this cloak at all time to distinguish themselves for the rest of the shinobis. Danzo proceeded to hand out the cloaks to the various captains and kept one for himself. Kakashi was the first to answer, "My lord, I ask you to reconsider. Some shinobi mature faster than others. Those kids will be heartbroken if they were dropped out of the shinobi program because they were not as gifted as their peers or they didn't have the time and necessary environment to cultivate their abilities." Naruto looked at Kakashi as if he were an idiot and responded with a sneer. "I rather have those kids heartbroken than dead. The shinobi world is unforgiving. Shinobis who have no business as a ninja will likely die on the battlefield, and as Konoha's leader, it will be my duty to tell my people that their son or daughter died because of my ignorance and negligence, when I could see that they weren't meant for this life. I thought you knew better than most the cruelty of the ninja world. Maybe I was mistaken. Forgive me, my lord, I understand now." Naruto waved him off dismissively and asked, "Are there any other questions?" No one spoke, but Hayashi grunted in his down position, no longer able to formulate words under his heavy burden. Naruto nodded his head and looked towards the crowd. "As of now, our first training session will begin. Unlike the previous Hokages who trained in isolation, I believe you will be able to mature and succeed if accompanied by your peers. I will be leading the training session and helping those who are in need of my assistance. I want you to split up in 5 groups for each element you are attempting to master." After a little bit of scrambling, there were 5 different groups varying in size. The fire element received the most attention, followed by earth, lightning, water, and wind. Naruto glanced over the shinobis and nodded his head. He went through one seal and intoned Shadow Clone Jutsu. In a massive plume of smoke and 500 clones of Naruto emerged. Many shinobi were shocked by the sheer number he produced. Naruto fell to one knee, but was quickly helped to his feet by Danzo and Sarutobi. He was accompanied to his seat, where he attempted to regulate his breathing. "Are you all right, my lord?" questioned Danzo worriedly. Naruto nodded his head and said, "I am fine. Shadow Clone Jutsu of this magnitude is a tiring task." Danzo nodded in understanding. Most jonin had trouble producing and sustaining 5 shadow clones. This many clones was just unheard of. Naruto spoke once more. "My clones will be assisting you in mastering your respective elements. We will follow this regime for the course of 6 months. By then, I expect you to have a good grasp on your elemental affinities." All shinobi began to work diligently with their clone in mastering the elements. They began doing various work. Some were trying to prevent a fire from burning a leaf. Others were trying to break through solid boulders with their fist. Others tried to split a leaf with their chakra. Some attempted to manipulate the flow water, and many attempted to induce a spark from their fingers. Naruto walked to Hayashi's down position and waved his arm. Immediately Hayashi felt the wave of pressure release him. "Why did you name me as one of your captains? I'm sure you could have found someone better suited." Naruto looked at him impassively and spoke tiredly. "Hayashi, I have no time for such asinine and pointless dispute. I plan to reshape this world where the weak don't have to live and cower in fear of the strong. To do this, I must become the strongest being of this world. Survival of the fittest is the one truth that holds true in this world, and if I am the strongest, I can rule this world however I see fit. Imagine at Hayashi a world where your daughter Hinata won't be forced to branded with the cage seal because of her weakness. I know that beneath your cold exterior you care deeply for your daughter. My eyes are gifted. Very few things can cloud my vision. I can see it all in your eyes. I'm sure you know it is possible, however, you are not truly convinced you should take such drastic matters. Maybe you're waiting for the right opportunity. However, there is no such thing. It is only those who are bold enough to make a decision who go down as legends. I am asking you to believe in me and my power." Hayashi remained silent, contemplating everything he just heard. He glanced up at Naruto and was captivated by the intensity of the Rinnegan. It held such power, such fierce, cold determination. This boy is indeed a strong shinobi. Through his leadership and power, it may just be possible, began to think Hayashi. Hayashi bowed his head in a submissive act and spoke clearly. "Hi, my lord, I will follow your word, and your word alone. I am your loyal subordinate." "Good catch." Naruto tossed a rather large blue scroll towards Hayashi. Hayashi grunted from catching the heavy scroll. His eyes widened greatly. "This is the lost secrets of the Uzumaki water ninjutsu. Why would you give such sacred clan ninjutsu to me?" "Hayashi, I told you once before, this is my village. You are my family. As your leader, I take it upon myself to help you as my people. Take those jutsu, master, and teach those jutsu to those you deem fit. Those jutsu are very dangerous and rather difficult to master. However, I'm sure you will be able to accomplish it. I have faith in you, Hayashi." Hayashi's eyes widened, and he smiled. "Thank you, my lord. I will not fail you." Naruto nodded. "I'm sure you won't. Go on, master your water affinity. You will play a pivotal part in upcoming plans, Hayashi. I need you top B at your strongest. Train hard." Hayashi nodded and walked to his comrades and assumed his training. "Kakashi, POV. How can you abandon us, Kakashi?" demanded Sasuke. "I need power in order to defeat him," he hissed, clearly furious with the entire predicament. "I'm sorry, Sasuke, under new orders. I myself am forced to undergo a training schedule." "Sakura, but sensei, isn't there something you can do? I mean, can't we talk to the Hokage or the council?" Kakashi responded. "I'm sorry, but you won't get much help there. The council has been disbanded, and as of the Hokage position, he no longer is in power." Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "Where's Naruto?" All this started to happen as soon as he left. Did he actually manage to defeat the Hokage? Kakashi sighed. "I guess I can tell you since I'm under no direct orders not to tell you. Naruto did in fact manage to defeat Sarutobi-sama, and is now the leader of this village. He chose not to become the Hokage, and is now the emperor instead." The news hit Sasuke hard. The world around him came to a crashing halt. How? 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 I've trained day after day till my hands bled and protested me to stop, but still I continued, with the sole goal of killing you, Itachi. How is it possible you have surpassed me, Naruto? You who has everything, you who worked for nothing, wanted for nothing. How did I notice? What have I been doing all this time then?" Tears threatened to fall from Sasuke's eye. "It's just not fair. I'm the one that needs that power." Sasuke inwardly raged. Sakura voiced her opinion. "How is that possible? I know Naruto was good and all, but he's the same age as us. How could he defeat Hokage-sama?" Sasuke did not say anything, but he listened closely for an answer. Kakashi admitted knowingly, "That is just the world we live. Ninjas can be as young as Naruto and as strong as Hokage-sama. However, I must say Naruto is a rarity. Only few come each millennium with his gift and talents." Sasuke spoke through gritted teeth. "What gifts are you talking about? Is it the Rinnegan? I heard you say something about it during the bell exam." Kakashi, "That's a part of it. Naruto has the power of the Sage of Six Paths, founder of ninjutsu. It's said that his eyes are what gave birth to ninjutsu, the very eyes Naruto possesses. Naruto's dojutsu has the potential to master all jutsu, including Kekkei Genkai. As of now, I have seen him use multiple Kekkei Genkais, including Mokuton." Sasuke's eyes widened greatly in anger, the news hitting harder, shattering his ego. "This is not a Sasuke bashing FIC, he's my second fave, but I'm Team Madara. Why? Why I'm the one who needs this power, not Naruto. He was given everything in life, Yondaime-sama techniques, along with the Uzumaki clan scrolls, and now the Rinnegan," Sasuke furiously thought. "Wow, I never knew Naruto was so strong. He never showed any of his Kekkei Genkais in the academy," said Sakura. "Naruto has a good understanding of the ninja world, Sakura. Deception is a ninja greatest weapon," replied Kakashi. One more thing along with me leaving you both. Sakura, you will be forced to go back to the academy. The Emperor has made a new decree. All genins who have not mastered at least one elemental jutsu must return to the academy. Sakura eyes widened. How come only I have to go back? Wouldn't Sasuke-kun have to come as well? Kakashi shook his head in negative. Sasuke here can use multiple fire jutsu and has a good understanding of the fire affinity. He cannot actually partake in our trainings because it is Chunin and up. However, he will be able to train by himself, and he will have access to Konoha's library. The rest of the rookies will likely be sent back. Sasuke nodded his head absently. This news was too much for him to bear. 6 months later, training ground. Naruto met once more with his shinobis. He smiled. They progressed faster than he had initially anticipated. Everything appeared to be going smoothly as well, and if all went well, it wouldn't be that long for his head captain to arrive. Throughout the past 5 months, Naruto was viewed as a very likable leader. The shinobi were immediately taken in by his charming and charismatic personality, but knew that they should never question his rule, or there will be a price to pay. Naruto spoke fluidly. My people, you have done me a great service. You have done well, and I am proud at how far you've progressed. But now the time has come. You will undergo your own personal training, and I will be leaving you for a short time in order to train as well. Kurenai was the first to speak. My lord, we need you. You can't abandon us. Besides, you are the strongest shinobi in our village. There is no need for you to train any more than you already have. Naruto smiled kindly at her, but shook his head and said, I must train in seclusion in order to transcend a boundary. As of now, I'm likely the weakest shinobi compared to the Kages. The Raikage is the fastest shinobi alive, only surpassed by my father who is no longer among us. Suchikage has a vast amount of experience and the fearsome dust release. The Kazekage has a rather strong blood limit as well. And the Mizukage has full control over his bijou. These shinobi are highly gifted ninjas who are not to be taken lightly, and for my plan to succeed, I must be stronger than all of them. Fear not, my people, I shall return. However, in my absence, I leave Danzo in charge. I expect all you to have mastered your respected elements upon my arrival. The shinobi spoke in unison, Hi, my lord, with one hand on their chest. Naruto began walking to his compound. After about a 15-minute stroll, Naruto made it to the Namake's mansion. He placed his hand on the door knob and pushed a bit of his chakra into the door, and door began to open on its own accord. Naruto walked into the mansion. It was very luxurious. Furniture everywhere. It looked more like the house of a noble than that of a shinobi. Naruto wasted no time and went to the basement where there was an oddly placed door. Naruto went through a long series of hand seals before he bit his num and placed it on what appeared to be an ordinary wall. Immediately, the whole wall parted and Naruto calmly walked down a long series of stairs. After 15 minutes, Naruto eventually made it to the bottom. There was a gigantic chamber in front of Naruto. Naruto once more went through a series of seals where he once again bit his thumb and placed it on the chamber. He walked through and was greeted with a pair of glowing, malevolent eyes. Naruto smiled and said, It's been a while, Kurama-sensei. Naruto was responded with a tail lashing out at him with frightening speed. In return, a large tentacle of wood sprouted out from the ground and caught Kurama's tail and restricted it from moving. That's new, Kit. You didn't have that last time. Hi. I learnt MOKUTON release just recently. So what brings you here, Kit? And when will I be able to leave this damned chamber? Naruto sighed tiredly. It seemed they already went through this particular speech before. It amazed him that an immortal being like Kurama was so impatient. Naruto spoke, Kurama, I told you once before when I released you from my body. You will be given your freedom, but only in due time. As of now, I have only just established my place as ruler of this village. My power, however, is not as secure as I would like it to be. It is tenuous at best, and you making a hasty appearance will undoubtedly throw Konoha into chaos. You are still perceived negatively. The village still fear you and believe that you attacked the village for your own amusement. Kurama snarled in anger and repeated himself with more authority, How long will I have to wait, Kit? Naruto began to mull over the question. It won't be for much longer if everything goes as planned. In the next couple of years, half the world will be under my control. By then, it won't matter how the civilian perceive you. and it wouldn't be that hard of stretch for the shinobi to believe that you are my companion, and through bonding I helped you to see the error of your ways." Kurama was listening intently on each word Naruto spoke, and after a long period of silence he nodded his head in understanding. "Fine, so what brought you here anyway? You're not one for needless chats." "Indeed, you are correct. I intend to walk the path of supreme conquest, and it is power that will reveal the way for me. It is of great importance for me to acquire more power." "I see. I take it you know what your greatest weakness are as of now." Naruto nodded his head and spoke with distaste. "Hand-to-hand combat is my greatest weakness at the moment." Kurama nodded his head. "I know of a way for you to acquire greater power and increase your speed and physical endurance." Naruto remained silent, allowing Kurama to continue. "As of now, what do you know about your Zanpakuto?" Naruto looked down in thought. "His name is Hyarinmaru. As of now, I can use ice ninjutsu without any hand seals." Kurama roared in laughter. "You have barely grazed the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Your Zanpakuto wields unimaginable power. Right now you have mastered the Shurikai state of your Zanpakuto, however, that its first stage. For you to transcend your current limit, you must achieve Bankai. Once you have achieved Bankai, you will have access to Hyarinmaru's full power." Naruto was silent throughout Kurama's whole speech. His face made no visible reaction to what he heard. "And how exactly do I train with Hyarinmaru?" Kurama gave a knowing smile and said, "That is where I will come in. I know of a technique that will help with just that. Be warned, many have died through this procedure. However, if you were to succeed, your power will surely increase exponentially." Naruto looked on with not an ounce of fear and said with smirk, "Let the procedure begin." Kurama went through a long-winded series of seal and nine tails encircled Naruto, creating an orb of white light that formed a gigantic orb around Naruto. After an hour, Kurama finally stopped in the ram seals and said, "Space-time ninjutsu technique, frozen time." Naruto looked at his surrounding for the first time in his life. He was truly baffled and confused. The whole vicinity was white. The entire place was empty. Naruto quickly noticed that the air here was much denser, and it seemed as if the gravity here was a lot stronger as well. Naruto smiled. "I see the stronger gravity of this world will increase my speed and muscle strength. However, how will this aid me in wielding Hyarinmaru?" Naruto was given his answer when Hyarinmaru appeared in his human form. He was a tall, young man with long, wild, teal-green hair, an icy blue X across the center of his face, and gray eyes. He wore a loose, samurai-like garments that consisted of a dark green and purple chest plate underneath, a light purple kimono with a chain around his waist, and a dull gold adornment on his chest. His arms and legs are covered in ice, and he has a prehensile tail with an icy tip. He held a katana in his hand. He looked at Naruto impassively. Both Zanpakuto and wielder said no words. This was the first time Naruto had ever seen Hyarinmaru in human form. "Hyarinmaru, I'm sure you know the reason as to why I am here. You wish to wield my power and to unlock and master Bankai." Naruto nodded his head. "As your Zanpakuto, I will follow and aid you to the best of my abilities. However, I must warn you the training will be rigorous, and I cannot promise you that you will survive this training." Naruto looked on impassively, understood. Hyarinmaru nodded his head and flexed his arm as if testing the katana in his hand. Naruto looked on cautiously and activated his Rinnegan. To his immense surprise, it didn't work. Hyarinmaru held a ghost of a smile and said, "You cannot use any type of chakra while you are here, so your Rinnegan and all your ninjutsu and jinjutsu are useless to you as of now." Naruto's eyes narrowed to slits, but calmly, he pulled out his Zanpakuto, and to his immense surprise it was gone. "You having a weapon would be too easy, Naruto. You must find the true me." When Hyarinmaru finished those words, multiple ice swords sprouted from the ground. Naruto narrowed his eyes in response. He quickly pulled one sword from the ground and charged with great speed at Hyarinmaru. He held the katana in his right hand and attempted a right-hand sword thrust at Hyarinmaru's head. Hyarinmaru reacted with great expertise and slashed with his own katana, quickly destroying the katana in Naruto's hand. "Too sloppy for you to defeat me. You must become one with me. Hone your instincts." Naruto's eyes widened. There was a large cut across his chest. He gasped in pain. How? Hyarinmaru smiled. How was I able to inflict damage to you? Naruto said nothing, so Hyarinmaru continued. In this realm, I can control it to better help you. You are not actually hurt, but you feel all the physical pain you endure here. Pain is your greatest teacher. Naruto calmed his breathing and closed his eyes, picking out random swords would be useless. This is a test of some sort. I must find the real Hyarinmaru. Naruto's eyes snapped open, and with a quick burst of speed, Naruto grabbed a unique-looking katana. It had a strange chain attached to the end, but was an immaculate piece of work. Hyarinmaru clapped and then smiled. You did well in discovering me so soon. However, that is only part of the battle. The war has yet to begin. And with that, Hyarinmaru charged with lightning speed. With a quick overhead strike, Naruto dodged and aimed with a quick slice toward Hyarinmaru's torso. Hyarinmaru parried quickly and struck with a downward slash aimed at Naruto's torso. Naruto grunted. When the sword made contact, he did multiple backflips to gain distance. Even knowing these wounds are not real does not lessen the pain I feel, thought Naruto. This will be an interesting 3 years, said Naruto. Indeed it will be. And with those words, both parties attacked each other with quick speed. 3 years later, Naruto's appearance greatly changed. He stood at a respectable 6 feet 1 inch. He had a slim build, the swimmer type. His face was rather feminine and acute, giving him the pretty boy look. His hair grew greatly as well. Due to the snowy terrain environment, his once tan skin slowly faded to a lighter, white tone, more like his father. He now held multiple bangs that completely covered his forehead, and a part of his eyes. His golden locks traveled all the way down to his back, and they lost the crimson highlights they once held. The adjacent bands that adorned the side of Naruto's face now rested firmly on his shoulders. Naruto's once cerulean eyes turned a dark shade of navy blue. Naruto's attire remained the same. He wore his golden captain's cloak. However, underneath it, he wore a black kimono. He was now in a heated battle with Hyarinmaru. He was currently in his Bankai mode with a pair of ice wings, and tail made purely out of ice was located on his body, and Hyarinmaru was in his full dragon form. Destructive Art 4, White Lightning. Muttered Naruto. A large blast of lightning raced out of Naruto's finger at Hyarinmaru. Hyarinmaru showed great agility and was able to dive down under the blast. Naruto wasted no time and muttered another attack. Destructive Art 31, Shot of Red Fire. Naruto shot multiple blasts of red heated fire at Hyarinmaru. Hyarinmaru roared in response and sent a large beam of ice towards Naruto, creating a large steam obscuring both parties' vision. Naruto wasted no time and quickly executed another attack. Destructive number 88, Flying Dragon striking heaven-shaking thunder cannon. Naruto shot a gigantic electric blast of spiritual energy, hitting Hyarinmaru dead on, blasting him out of the sky, forcing him to take a dive. However, Hyarinmaru managed to shake it off at the last moment and regulated his flying. Is that all, Naruto? I must say you've gotten quite good at Hado. To be able to use such high destructive spells without an incantation is impressive. However, I'm surprised you haven't used any of my abilities. Naruto merely rose an eyebrow in response. Do you take me for a fool, Hyarinmaru? What good would an ice attack do against an ice dragon? If anything, it would likely make you stronger. Good. I'm glad that my master appears to be intelligent. Naruto remained silent to Hyarinmaru. Trying to think of a way to beat me? Questioned Hyarinmaru. Naruto showed no reaction and calmly put his hand up. Mokuton number 63. Locking Bondage Stripe. A gold chain peered and shot forward at Hyarinmaru with great speed. Hyarinmaru launched an ice beam in response. However, the chain managed to snake around it, wrapping around Hyarinmaru, preventing him from moving any part of his body, including his wings, forcing him to crash into the ground. Naruto continued his offense and clasped his hand together as if he were praying and muttered. Mokuton number 75. Iron Pillars. Multiple pillars were summoned and were hovering over Hyarinmaru's down position. Naruto slammed his hands in a downwards position, and the pillars reacted to his will, quickly embedding themselves into Hyarinmaru, prevent him from moving. Hyarinmaru roared in pain and began to thrash on the ground. he began to fire beams of ice at various directions. Naruto's eyes displayed no emotions. It seems you rather tied up at the moment. I would say I've won this battle. Rinnegan stopped his thrashing and glanced at Naruto in amusement. Do you honestly believe you have beaten me because I can no longer move? Naruto's eyes narrowed. Rinnegan sounds too confident. Rinnegan spoke. Naruto, I'm sure you know my power. Water of any type is my weapon. Look at the arena as of now. This snowy terrain is suited perfectly for me. Watch closely. This is your final lesson. The effect were instantaneous. The arena began to darken. A cloud out of nowhere appeared in the sky and quickly enveloped the whole arena. The glacier and snow began to act accordingly to Rinnegan's will and rose off the ground and began to swirl around Rinnegan, quickly shattering the pillars, and through brute strength alone Rinnegan managed to destroy the chain. Naruto showed no emotion. I see, Rinnegan, this was your final attack. Frozen Heaven 100 Flower Funeral? It is your strongest attack after all. Rinnegan said no words, but his power continued to rise, and the temperature continued to decrease. Snow began to fall from the sky, and the pelts of snow began to form into flowers out of pure ice on any surface they touched. Naruto paid no mind to technique, even though part of his body was being covered in ice. What will you do, Naruto? There is a vast difference in our power, spoke Rinnegan. Naruto nodded his head in agreement. You are correct, Rinnegan. I have long ago surpassed you. Way of Destruction number 90, Black Coffin. A large box of black energy surrounded Rinnegan. Soon after, multiple black spears pierced the box. After a few seconds, the whole box itself disappeared, leaving Rinnegan there. Rinnegan's form was battered and covered with multiple cuts. His wounds were horrendous, and blood was openly flowing from his wounds. His attack long ago faded from the destructive power of the Hado. Rinnegan collapsed on the ground and reverted back to his human form. Such a destructive technique, and I only managed to use half of its true power, pondered Naruto in amazement. Naruto deactivated his Bankai in response. I can no longer feel the cold of your ice. Your attacks are useless against me, Rinnegan. Rinnegan slowly got up from his down position and glanced tiredly at Naruto. I have nothing left to teach you. You have surpassed my expectations. However, I have one piece of knowledge I will impart with you. Do not let your power consume you. Do not lose your way, Naruto. Naruto said no words in response to Rinnegan, and with those words Rinnegan disappeared and a door appeared in his place. Naruto calmly surveyed his surroundings. He glanced at the katana in his hand and smiled. I'm ready. Naruto exited the door and was greeted by a heavily panting Kurama. Naruto merely rose an eyebrow. This jutsu requires a lot of chakra to use. I trust your training trip went well. Naruto spoke coolly that sent a cold shiver down Kurama's spine. It went better than expected. Kurama nodded his head. Good kid, do you think you're ready? Naruto looked at Rinnegan and smiled. I believe so. Kurama-sensei, it won't be long now for you to make an appearance. I expect you to be ready. Kurama nodded with a toothy grin. Naruto walked out the chamber, and the chamber closed on its own accord. Naruto quickly made his ascent up the stairs. He finally made it to his compound after a long trip up the stairs. He then proceeded to take a shower. After he ate, he made his way to the tower. At the tower, Naruto opened the door and was greeted with almost all of the captains that were in attendance. Danzo was oddly enough sitting in the chair assigned for the captains and not his throne. He smiled. It seems Danzo could be trusted after all. Danzo spoke angrily. Who are you, boy? You have the gall to attend the Supreme Emperor throne room and the room of his honorable captains without an appointment. You will die for such treachery. Naruto looked at Danzo amusedly and spoke coolly. Danzo, I had expected a relieved welcome, not an interrogation. It is I, Naruto Namikaze. Danzo looked at Naruto sharply, and his eyes widened greatly along with all the captains at attendance. You have returned, my lord. Forgive me, I had not known it was you. What has happened to you, my lord, to cause such a drastic change? Naruto waved his hand and walked to his throne. He sat there and rested his head upon his palm. There is a technique that I use to train while a year has passed in this world through the world in the other dimension. I train time is slower, and I was able to train for an extended period of 3 years. The result were, as you can see, I am by all means 16. The reaction varied from the captains. How can such a technique exist? Asked Kakashi in astonishment. Yash, your flames of youth burn brighter than ever, Emperor Sama. Is it possible for others to train in this dimension as well? Naruto glanced at Guy and said, it is possible for you to train in the dimension. However, there are some requirements the user must meet. He must hold roughly about 3 times the amount of chakra of an average Kage. I could perform the jutsu, so you could use it. However, that dimension is rather dangerous. The likelihood of you dying is rather high. Ninjutsu of all kind is rendered useless in that world. The dimension will only stay open as long as you yourself have the necessary chakra to keep the portal open. Now on to more important matters. Danzo, how has the village been during my absence? The village has prospered quite well. However, because of your absence, the Hyuga clan has started a rebellion. The elders of the clan are trying to grasp any power they can get their hands upon. Hayashi has had his hands tied, and I could not help because it is a clan affair, and as captain I cannot partake in another captain division or territory. Also, the clan heirs have managed to pass, and all have become genins. Naruto nodded his head. Is there any other matter of importance I should be aware of? Kurenai. Yes, as captain of 4th Division, I regret to inform you a member of my division is unstable and out of my control. Naruto looked partly intrigued. What appears to be the problem? Kurenai answered begrudgingly. The Kurama clan are highly gifted with Jinjutsu. However, there are a few cases when a member is extremely gifted among the clan, where their Jinjutsu can inflict physical pain. The problem is she cannot control her powers and is harming everyone and anyone she comes into contact with. Naruto's eyes narrowed. He never heard of such a feat before for a Jinjutsu to inflict physical pain. I see. I shall accompany you after I solve the Hyuga crisis. Understood, replied Kurenai. Danzo, you are with me. Danzo nodded his head, and both parties disappeared with a quick shushin to the Hyuga compound. Naruto quickly took notice of the environment. The Hyuga clan itself was in great disarray. Blood was splattered everywhere, scorch marks on the ground, signs of struggles everywhere, dead bodies marred the floor. It was gruesome. It was absolute bedlam. Naruto, however, remained impassive and stoic and walked through the door. He quickly activated his Rinnegan and was greeted by 2 Hyuga members. Stop, what are you here for? Naruto spoke calmly and dangerously. Make way now. The Hyuga activated the Byakugan in response. Naruto, with grace and quickness, severed off both Hyuga's head. With a single stroke, blood splattered onto Naruto's face. However, he showed no reactions to their deaths. Danzo, retrieve Hayashi for me. Hi. Naruto waited calmly and allowed his Rinnegan to scout the walls for the elders. It wasn't long before he located them. They had someone gagged in a bag. He could not make out who it was because of the fact they had placed multiple seals on it, obscuring his vision. Danzo finally made it back with Hayashi along with him. Hayashi's status report. My lord, the elders have revolted against my rule. I had dissolved the branch and main branch in attempt to unite the two. However, the elders did not see things my way and kidnapped my daughter and are currently holding her hostage. That a few main branch members are with them, but the majority of Hyugas are on my side. Naruto nodded. Hayashi, lead me to them. Hayashi nodded and dashed forward. Naruto and Danzo followed quickly behind. In about 5 minutes, they were in front of door. Naruto calmly pushed the door and was greeted with about 10 Hyugas. The 3 elders were seated in the back with the hostage, and the remaining Hyuga had their Byakugan on, poised for battle. How well, if it isn't the Emperor, I must say puberty has been rather good to you. I can't say the same about your leadership skills. You are a worthless leader, spoke an elder. Naruto paid no mind and muttered calmly. Swift release, flash step. In one quick movement, 5 Hyugas dropped dead. The elder Dao spoke quickly with a sinister smile. Stop, drop, you sword Emperor. If you don't, the girl will die. Naruto calmly walked towards another Hyuga, and with a quick stroke of his Zanpakuto, another Hyuga died. Are you deaf? Did you not hear me? I will kill this girl, yelled Dao. Naruto spoke in an ice-cold tone. The moment you do is the moment you die. Naruto wasted no time and quickly cut down the last Hyuga member, leaving the three elder left. Dao thought in fear, how is this happening? I have the hostage. Why does it feel like he is in control? He's going to kill us. There has to be a way to salvage this situation. My lord, forgive us here. Take the girl. I promise she's fine. We've done nothing to her. After finishing his speech, Dao tossed the bundle. Hayashi reacted quickly and caught the bag. He quickly freed the bundle, and Hanabi got out. Her face was marred with tear streaks, but other than that she was fine. How is she, Hayashi? She is fine, my lord, said Hayashi respectfully. See, my lord, we freed her. Please forgive us, said Dao pleadingly. Naruto nodded his head towards Dao. You were wise in freeing her. Dao smiled, but was quickly turned into shock when Naruto slashed his chest with Rinnegan. Why? Asked Dao in shock. Naruto responded without so much as a show of a single emotion, I have no need for traitors. With those words, Naruto walked away. Kill them, commanded Naruto, and with quick speed Danzo disposed of the remaining elder. Hayashi, leave with your daughter. You've done well in uniting the branch and main branch. You are the leader of the Hyuga clan from this day forth. Take your daughter and go. Hayashi nodded and took Hanabi and left. Danzo, have someone clean this mess. Danzo nodded. You are indeed the leader Konoha needs. Naruto made it back to the tower. Kurenai, let us go. Kurenai looked at Naruto's bloody form in shock. My lord, you're bleeding. It is not my blood. Kurenai nodded and both left quickly to the Kurama compound. During the journey, Naruto asked, what exactly are her abilities? Kurenai glanced at Naruto and couldn't help but blush. He somehow transformed from the little 13-year-old to a hunk. Yakumo has the ability to bring her drawings to life. Whatever she draws will happen, and that's just the beginning of it. Her other forms' powers are unknown to us, but is undoubtedly a lot more powerful. Naruto nodded his head. You speak as if you knew her personally. Kurenai looked down in shame and said, I was her former sensei. I couldn't teach her to control her special power. So I had to seal a part of her away and she was never the same again. But now Ito is released and is causing mayhem. Naruto nodded his head in understanding and stopped out of nowhere, grabbed Kurenai, and jumped to ground under Kurenai. What are you doing? She stuttered. A second later, lightning passed right over them. Kurenai's eyes widened. Is this Yakumo's doing? Asked Naruto. It is quite possible. How did you see the lightning? Naruto looked at her for a second, causing Kurenai to blush. He spoke coolly and said, I didn't see the lightning. I just knew something was going to happen. Kurenai nodded in understanding. All shinobi had a sixth sense when it came to sensing danger somewhere greater than others. Let's go, spoke Naruto, who was already walking towards the compound. Kurenai quickly got to her feet and hurried to catch up to Naruto. After a short walk, they finally made it to the district. To Naruto's surprise, there was a mass of shinobi standing before him, ready to kill him if need be. Naruto, eyes narrowed. This is the work of her Jinjutsu? Kurenai nodded. Hi. Naruto closed his eyes briefly and opened them. His Rinnegan was on full display. He began walking to the mass of shinobi with Kurenai by his side. Naruto placed his hand before them and muttered calmly, Shinra Tesnii. The effect were instantaneous. A large explosion was created, and all the shinobi were blasted away, and after few seconds, they all phased out of existence. Naruto continued walking towards the tower. That's Shinra Tensei. What a devastating technique, thought Kurenai. Naruto made it to door and attempted to break it, but was blasted away. Naruto landed gracefully on his feet. Kurenai, there is a barrier set up around the compound. It is a high-level ceiling jutsu. Can you break it? Kurenai nodded and went into a rapid succession of seals and quickly dispelled the barrier. Both parties entered the compound. It was empty, no rooms, no doors, no furniture. It was blank, until a series of stairs appeared in front of the two. She dares mock me with her Jinjutsu. All is futile to my Rinnegan. Naruto held his hand up once more. Blocking technique, absorption seal. This is used primarily for ninjutsu, but it should work on Jinjutsu as well. She is using chakra to make this dimension. Hazard Naruto. The jutsu began to work and created a barrier around Naruto which began to absorb all the chakra around Naruto. After a few minutes, the whole dimension began to break, leaving an ordinary compound. Naruto quickly scanned the area with his Rinnegan and spoke quickly. The top floor, there is a woman. Kurenai. That must be Yakumo. Both shinobi dashed up the floors and quickly made it to the room. Yakumo turned to Naruto and asked in a demonic voice, "Who are you?" Naruto retorted, "Silence, vermin. Release Yakumo or perish." Ito began to laugh. "You are a fool. I am Yakumo. Yakumo and I are of one entity. If I die, she does as well. Now die." With a quick stroke of paint, a large red line appeared upon Naruto's right arm, and in a second blood began to pour out of Naruto's arm. Naruto, however, showed the visible reaction to his wound on his arm. Kurenai said, "Stop this, Yakumo." Ito replied innocently, "Stop this, you say? Stop what? This is just the beginning, sensei. I will destroy you and this villi irk." Naruto appeared out of nowhere and was currently crushing Yakumo's windpipe. Kurenai's eyes widened. She looked at the Naruto that was next to her, all for it to dissolve in a flock of crows. Naruto was currently suffocating the air out of Yakumo. Yakumo began to claw at Naruto's hand in an attempt to remove his hand, however. Naruto's grip remained firm. Ito smiled cruelly. "Are you willing to kill a defenseless girl?" Naruto said no words and calmly lifted up his hand. An orb of swirling dense chakra was quickly created. Yakumo's eyes widened to the size of saucers. "You can't be serious. You would honestly kill a defenseless girl?" Naruto said no words and brought his Rasengan down to Yakumo, ready to end her existence, only to stop an inch away when Ito reverted back to Yakumo. "Aw!" yelled Yakumo in fear. Naruto calmly released her and jumped away from her to gain distance. Kurenai quickly hurried to Yakumo and began to mutter soothing words to her former student. Out of nowhere, Naruto dropped to the ground and clutched his right hand. Kurenai's eyes darted to Naruto. "Are you all right?" Naruto said nothing, and violent chakra began to swirl around him. Also, a head formed around above his head. It was Ito. "Yes, this is the body I desire. Such power, such raw power. It's so delicious." Yakumo was weak, but with this body, the whole world is mine for the taking. Kurenai's eyes widened. "Ito." Ito smiled cruelly. "In the flesh. This foolish human chose not to kill Yakumo along with me. That was the opportunity one needed to switch hosts. When his guard was weakened, I acted. You will die today along with Yakumo." Kurenai. Ito began to release an unfathomable amount of chakra. Kurenai looked on in shock. "How can one person have such dense and potent amount of chakra? I can't breathe. I have to save Yakumo, though." Kurenai struggled to breathe from the horrendous amount of chakra Ito was exuding from Naruto's body, until it all suddenly stopped. Naruto spoke through gritted teeth. "Release me, you parasite." Ito spoke over Naruto. "Oh, I must say you have a rather strong will to fight me like this. But it's futile. My power is stronger than yours." Naruto's eyes closed, and Ito once more gained full control. Ito smiled cruelly. "See, even your emperor was no match for my power, Kurenai, and now it's your turn to die." "Silence, fool." Shock was equally evident in Kurenai and Ito when the words came out of Naruto's mouth. "You dare assume to have caught me off guard? You and Yakumo are one and the same. If I were to kill you, she would die as well. All I needed was for you to release her and show your true form. I merely played the decoy. Now you shall be punished for your insolence." Ito roared in agony and rage. "What are you saying? You planned that I would leech onto you?" Naruto said nothing and only raised his power level. Ito was immediately expelled out of Naruto's body. Naruto calmly rose to his feet. His Rinnegan activated on its own accord. He glanced calmly at Ito and roared, "Perish from this world, Amaterasu." A gold flame sprouted onto Ito until it completely enveloped her whole body, ending her existence. Naruto grunted in pain and dropped to the floor. "Emperor," yelled Kurenai. She quickly hurried to his down body and placed his head upon her lap. His breathing was ragged. "Emperor-sama, what's wrong?" "Call me Naruto, Kurenai," said Naruto calmly and slowly. Kurenai blushed a bit, but quickly hid it. Kurenai spoke. "We have to get you to the hospital or a medic need." "No, I can't allow anyone to see me like this." As a leader, I must remain strong and undefeatable. To my people, anything less than that is viewed as a sign of weakness. You will not speak of this to anyone, Kurenai. I am trusting you. Hai Naruto-kun. Naruto smirked. Since when did I become Naruto-kun? Kurenai blinked owlishly. It just came out, I didn't mean to say it. Not that I don't view as a great friend and all. It's just that. Naruto interrupted Kurenai's rambling when he started to laugh a small laugh. What are you laughing about? Asked Kurenai a bit angrily. You are pretty when you're flustered, Kurenai-san. Kurenai pulled a Hinata and her face turned a deep red. Do you really think so? You are indeed a great beauty, Kurenai. The likes I have never seen before. Kurenai blushed more, but spoke quietly. Where is all this coming from? And why tell me this now? Naruto said nothing and looked at the ceiling, and for a moment Kurenai thought he wasn't going to answer. I always had a crush on you, Kurenai, from the moment I first laid my eyes on you. As the leader of this village, my priority is to protect this village, and I'm not capable of doing that with you. Kurenai spoke angrily. So what am I to you, a distraction? Naruto spoke calmly. Yes, you are a distraction to me, my greatest distraction. My once cold heart was defrosted by your beauty. My steel resolve melt when I come into contact with you. I can't focus when I see you. I'm not sure what these feelings are, but my heart always speeds up when I'm in close proximity with you. It's one of the reasons why I made you my captain, so that you always were close to me and I could protect you. Kurenai was quiet throughout Naruto's confession. I see. Naruto glanced up at Kurenai and spoke in a concerned voice. Forgive me, Kurenai, I had no intention of hurt. Naruto was silenced when Kurenai kissed him. This was no average kiss. Kurenai began to slip her tongue into Naruto's mouth. Naruto, however, decided to show her who was the leader, and both parties began to wrestle the other's tongue for supremacy. After a rather long session, both party ways at the same time. Wow, muttered Kurenai. Naruto smiled at Kurenai. Ahem, should I leave you two alone? Asked Yakumo. Kurenai's eyes widened. How much did you see? Asked Kurenai. Naruto remained impassive to Yakumo. Since you two began your whole makeout session, said Yakumo with a smirk. Kurenai blushed harder, and Naruto said nothing, but slowly got to his feet. Yakumo, how do you feel? Yakumo began to check herself, and huge smile adorned her face. I'm fine, I can't feel Ito anywhere. It's feel like she was never here. I feel great, better than ever. Naruto's eyes narrowed in anger. That creature was able to possess my body and would have succeeded if I was a lesser man. It's good she has been disposed of. Naruto, I have to tell you something, said Kurenai. Naruto remained stoic, but was rather worried. Those words did not bode well with him. What is it, Kurenai? It's just that I like you too, but I have been seeing Anko on and off lately. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Is that all? Kurenai's eyes widened. Well, yeah, I'm going out with Anko. Naruto spoke. As the emperor and last member of my clan, I am likable to take multiple wives. If you and Anko are in a relation, it does make it quite easier to pick out my brides. Kurenai nodded, but asked worriedly, Anko doesn't seem to like you very much. Naruto nodded his head recognition. Indeed, however, that can all be changed given time. How about we go meet her after I take a shower? Kurenai nodded with a smile. Yeah, you are in desperate need of a bath. Naruto grunted in pain. What's wrong? Asked Kurenai in concern. Yakumo was the one to answer. When Ito inhabits someone's body, she attempts to absorb all their power and leave it for herself. She first destroys a person's mind and mental barriers, leaving them a shell of their former selves. But when Ito left me and went to Naruto-sama's body, she took all of the viruses and toxins she put in me and transferred it to Naruto. His body is going to recover due to the fact Ito is now destroyed, but it needs time to recover. Kurenai looked at Naruto, and he seemed to be fine. But under closer inspection, she could see that his eyes were glazed over. He had a large gash on his right arm, showing he did in fact get hurt. Naruto's legs began to buckle, and Kurenai quickly helped out by placing one of Naruto's arm over her shoulder. Thanks. No problem. Both left with a quick shushin. Konoha Tower a week later. Naruto was accompanied by all his captains and Anko, who was currently seated on his lap. Anko enjoyed Naruto's transformation And even though Orochimaru and Naruto held a lot of similarities, that's what Anko enjoyed most. She never admitted it to anyone, but she was secretly in love with her sensei, making his betrayal that much more devastating. Ruto-kun, these meetings are so boring. Naruto said nothing but allowed his eyes to drift over his captains. Things were movingly rather smoothly after the whole Hyuga incident. The Hyuga came together rather nicely. Under Hayashi's rule, it was about time for Naruto to make his move. However, one pivotal piece was necessary. They are needed. Besides me, you and Kurenai can have fun after the meeting. He whispered huskily into Anko's ear. Oh really? I might just take you up on that. Bang bang, suddenly Iruka opened door and bowed. My lord, we're under attack. Naruto, eyes narrowed. Even Anko was more alert. Who are attacking us? We're not sure. It's two men. Both are wearing cloaks with clouds on them. However, one of the man is Itachi Uchiha. Division Squad Asuma, vice captain of Captain Sarutobi, has already made contact along with Captain Kakashi Hitaki. Naruto nodded his head. You did well in reporting this to me. Anko, Kurenai, let's go. The rest of you remain here. The trio vanished with a quick shushin. My Itachi, it's a pleasure to see you in person, spoke Naruto. Why, Itachi, you know this man? Asked Kisame. Itachi eyes narrowed. Not at all. Naruto smiled. Itachi, as leader of this village, I must thank you for everything you have done for this village. We are forever in your debt. Itachi eyes showed no emotion. What are you talking about? Itachi, I know the truth of Uchiha clan's massacre, and as my loyal shinobi, I expect you to follow all my orders. Exterminate Kisame, responded Naruto. Kisame looked at Naruto as if he was insane. It slowly turned to realization when Itachi swung a katana at his head, which he narrowly dodged. What's the meaning of this, Itachi? Why follow this man's order? Itachi remained silent and shifted his stance, readying to attack once more. Kisame's eyes narrowed. He knew he was strong, but he was no fool. These many shinobis along with Itachi would mean his immediate demise. With a quick shushin, he made his escape. What's going on here? Asked Anko. All will be revealed at the tower. With quick haste, all the shinobi made it to the tower, including Itachi. As I said before, Itachi is a loyal shinobi of Leaf Village, said Naruto. How can that be? He killed his own clan. He is a traitor to the village, said Kakashi uncharacteristically with anger. Naruto and Itachi remained impassive, but the majority of the captains nodded their head in agreement with Kakashi. He was ordered to kill the Uchiha clan, announced Sarutobi. The captains were devastated, complete, total, and utter shock. Yes, Itachi was ordered to kill his clan. The Uchiha clan were planning a coup. Can you imagine what loyalty it took for him to kill his very own family? His mother, the women who gave birth to him. His very family he killed in order to remain loyal to his village. He chose to live his life as a traitor, and still he remained a loyal Konoha shinobi even to this day. The captains were speechless. This was unthinkable. Killing your own family was an order? Could they do the same if asked? This is the world we live in, where sacrifices like this are needed to ensure the greater good, spoke Naruto. However, Itachi, I have other plans for you. You will be my second hand. You will become my first captain. Does anyone in this room deny Itachi to be loyal and most deserving of this position? No one spoke. They couldn't, still reeling from shock. To massacre your entire clan on an order. This was insanity. Good. As of now, captain of the 1st Division will be Itachi Uchiha. Chapter 3, Battle of Kirigakure. Konoha Tower Balcony. My people, I have gathered you here today to celebrate the return of Itachi Uchiha, spoke Naruto. He was interrupted with a chorus of boos. And he's a traitor, kill him. It was a gruesome sight. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. He had anticipated this, but this was necessary. My people, I am here to enlighten you to the truth of the Uchiha massacre. The crowd grew silent and began whispering to one another as to what the emperor could possibly be talking about. My people, the Uchiha clan planned to betray us. Yes, they planned to launch a coup d'état. The only reason this had not transpired was because of one faithful, loyal Konoha ninja, Itachi Uchiha. The whole crowd gasped in astonishment. Many of the ninjas were just shell-shocked. He butchered his clan for the sake of the village? Even still, many wondered what type of person was capable of killing their family in cold blood regardless of their transgressions. Yes, my people, Itachi Uchiha is a commendable shinobi. The sacrifices he made for this village alone should be honored. However, he is not done yet. As of today, I would like to introduce you to my first captain. Itachi walked into the balcony and held a small smile adorning his handsome visage. Most people in the crowd gave hesitant, polite applause, still unsure how they felt on the matter, except for one person. Is this the truth, brother? Were you ordered to kill the clan? Why didn't you tell me? I will find out, thought Sasuke. Naruto calmly glanced at his shinobi and civilian alike and smiled. There would undoubtedly be a few bumps along the road, although for the most part, at the very least, they seemed willing to give Itachi a chance, which all he could ask for. Itachi, I would like to discuss a few matters with you in the throne room. Quickly gather the other captains, it is of great importance. Itachi nodded, and with a quick shunshin, he vanished. My people, that is all. Naruto waved. And with that, the crowd slowly, begrudgingly dispersed. Naruto began making his way towards the room where he sat. He placed his head upon his palm. He looked on impassively. The work of an emperor is tiresome, but such is my burden, sighed Naruto. With a quick gust of wind, all of the captains were seated in their rightful chairs. Good. I'm glad everyone was on time. Naruto's eyes lingered on Kakashi for a brief moment, silently conveying a hidden message. I called you here today to speak on a rather interesting topic at Han. Boom. The door was blasted of its hinges. All the captain prepared and settled in a battle-ready stance, prepared for an attack, while Naruto made no moves and remained impassive with no visible shift in his stance. So you have arrived? Sasuke. Sasuke glared at the man. Naruto, is that you? What happened to you? How dare you address Emperor Sama with such disrespect? You insolent boy, snapped Hayashi. Naruto waved his hand in a dismissive motion. It's quite all right, Hayashi-san. His disrespect is rather refreshing. However, Sasuke, I must warn you, my tolerance can only go so far. Anything less than obedience is met with certain death. Naruto quickly flared his ki to insane levels. Hai Naruto-sama, stuttered Sasuke. Sasuke glanced at Naruto, but he didn't see Naruto, he saw a monster. That chakra was too vile to belong to any human, too potent, too dense. It was just so otherworldly. Good, what brings you here today? Asked Naruto with a knowing smile, amusement written on his face. Oh, he definitely was a sadistic asshole. Sasuke gritted his teeth in annoyance with false politeness. I'm here to speak with my brother, my lord. Oh, Itachi, it seems you and your brother have some unresolved business to attend to. You may take your leave to assort this matter. I'm putting this predicament in your capable hands. Itachi nodded, understanding the underlining meaning. Both Uchihas exited with a quick bow. Naruto sighed and said, now on to more important matters. I have found the current whereabouts of Tsunade Senju. However, the Umbu I have sent to ascertain her have come back with intensive injuries. Although all of them are alive, I will not condone these actions. I will capture her myself, if need be. My lord, that is not the wisest idea. Tsunade is well known for her temper. If you attempt to force her, it will only result in utter chaos, advised Sarutobi. Naruto glanced at him and replied, her power hardly compares to mine's. I have no time for spoiled brats. You allowed her to roam free in honor of her lineage. I, however, do not share the same sentiments. Naruto flashed through a set of hand seal, and a door immediately replaced the door that was broken. Knock, knock, knock. Naruto raised an eyebrow. He was not expecting any visitors. Come in, ordered Naruto. Irika came in, bowed, and said, my lord, these ninja requested an audience with you. Naruto glanced at him and nodded his head. Send them in. Irika calmly ushered a trio in. The first person to walk in was a short man. He had light blue hair and dark eyes. He also had pointed shark-like teeth. He wore a square, black-rimmed glasses connected to ear protectors, a blue pinstriped shirt, and camouflage pattern pants. Also, he wore his forehead protector on the front of his holster, which he uses to carry a peculiar-looking sword. The sword itself was wrapped in bandages, leaving only the double hilt visible. He also had shuriken holsters strapped onto each of his legs. The next person that walked in was rather unique looking as well. He was a middle-aged man with blue hair which is styled in a moused-up manner. His left eye was blue and his right eye was covered by an eye patch. He wore a talisman in each ear with the kanji for a humble form of to hear written on them twice on each side. He also wore the standard striped, gray suit, with a green haori that had white trimmings that stop halfway down, over them. The last person was a beauty. She was a slender woman, probably in her early 20s. She had green eyes and ankle-length auburn hair styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with a dark blue band, and with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs are short, with one covering her right eye, and 2 are long, crossing each other on her sizable bust, just below her chin. She wore a long-sleeved, dark blue dress that fell just below the knees. It seems to be closed at the front with a zip, and is kept open on the front right side from the waist down. The dress only covers up to the upper part of her arms and the underside of her breasts. Underneath, she wore a mesh armor that covered more of her upper body than her dress, but stopped short of covering her shoulders and still left a sizable cleavage. She also wore shorts in the same color as her dress, and, underneath those, mesh leggings reaching down over her knees. Around her waist, she wore a belt with a pouch attached to the back on the left along with high-heeled sandals and shin guards reaching up over her knees, dark blue polish on her fingers and toes, and had on dark blue lipstick. Naruto glanced at the trio with a stoic stare, not showing a single discernible ounce of emotion. "What brings the 3 of you to my humble domain?" Ao spoke, quickly seizing control. "We were under the impression that Hiruzen Sarutobi was the Hokage of this village. We request to speak with him." He even pointed to the seated Sarutobi to demonstrate who he meant. Naruto chuckled in amusement. Ao eyes narrowed. "It seems you were ill-informed. Sarutobi has not been Hokage for quite some time now. I am the new leader of this village, and I must say you are already on my bad side. It's a place you won't live long enough to regret." Mei's eyes widened. "My lord, forgive me. My bodyguard," he spoke out of turn. "Please allow us to explain our situation." Naruto nodded his head. "See to it that your bodyguard learns better self-control, or it could lead to his early demise," he advised. "Hi, my lord," responded Mei. "You may continue." Mei nodded appreciative and said, "My lord, Kiri is in a state of uproar. The people are revolting against the Mizukage. Because of his recent decree, the execution of bloodline users, we have acquired a substantial amount of people to support our cause to battle against the Mizukage. However, we do not have the manpower or abilities as of now to defeat him and the legendary 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist alone. We humbly request your aid, support, and help." Naruto looked on with amusement. "I will help you, however there will be a price." Mei showed no emotion. "What is the cost?" "Konoha will gain full control over the water country, and in return Konoha will free your people and execute the Mizukage." Mei's eyes widened. "How could you propose such a deal? How could we leave one tyrant only to go to another?" Naruto replied sternly. "You misunderstand me, my dear. This is not some attempt to persuade you. I am merely giving you the facts and telling you what is going to happen. You can accept our help. The water village will likely come out unscathed compared to Konoha declaring full war on it right now while you're in a state civil war." Mei's eyes widened. He really means it. It doesn't matter if the Mizukage dies if the my village does not see a brighter future. "My lord, I will agree to your condition only if you accept my conditions." Naruto shifted his stance and gazed at Mei with an intense stare, daring her to propose an outrageous term. "Speak plainly," he ordered. "If you were to conquer Kiri, you must treat all the natives there with same respect and equality that is shown in Konoha. Everyone must equal, and there must be no discrimination among us." Naruto nodded his head in understanding. "That is quite admirable of you. I give you my word to abide by your rules. As of today, the Kiri rebel faction will unite with Konoha." Mei and Naruto quickly shook hands. Naruto calmly glanced at Ao, who was currently giving Naruto an ominous glare. "Is there something the matter, San?" "Yes, in fact there is. I'm not so sure I should put my faith in a scrawny-looking boy like you. How exactly did you even become the leader of this village? Was it a raffle of some sort?" Mei's eyes widened. "Ao, you fool, all the work I did to secure this treaty, you go on destroy in 2 seconds, you thickhead baka." Multiple captains voiced their outrage and began to shout obscenities at Ao and the trio. However, Naruto remained perfectly calm. He said in a silent tone that spoke volumes. Silence. It's only natural that another party would like a demonstration of my power. I mean, it is rather peculiar for a boy my age to be the leader of such a village. Although I would believe that by now, Aizen, you would be a little bit more knowledgeable of the ninja world. Ao scoffed at the insult. I would like to be the one test your worth if that is all right with you, Emperor. Naruto smiled. Be my guest, Ao-san. I'll even permit you to use that Byakugan hidden in your left eye. Ao eyes widened greatly. How could you know? Naruto smiled and activated his Rinnegan in response. My power transcends yours. Ao eyes widened. The words were not what scared him. It's where he heard them. He turned his head to see Naruto looking at him intently. How do you move? Mei and Chojuro were simultaneously thinking the same thing. My Ao-san, if you can't keep track of me, how will you hope to defeat me? Ao eyes narrowed before he quickly schooled his features. Don't get arrogant, boy. It was a simple trick on your part. Probably the doing of those eyes of yours with the Byakugan on. I will be able to see through your trickery. You fool, Ao, that was no trick, just pure speed, thought Mei. I never pegged you to be delusional, Ao-san. However, if you truly wish to continue with this pointless endeavor, I will indulge you. Ao smiled. Good, I'm glad to hear you not chicken out. When will the fight take place? It's not every day I get to defeat the leader of a village. Naruto smiled. Big words for such small vermin. I am a busy man. There is no need to prolong your defeat. We will do it now, and as an act of good, all my captains will remain here. The captains showed no reaction to Naruto's statement. Mei narrowed her eyes once more for his subordinates to not react to him, leaving with 3 foreign ninja, who are all at least Jonin level. Speaks volume of his own power. Ao, I think you should reconsider, suggested Mei helpfully. Don't worry, my lady, I'll show this punk what we Kirin are made of. Naruto looked onto the group impassively. If you are ready, let us go. Ao, Mei and Chojuro nodded, and with a couple of Shunshin, the group was at Training Ground 7. Hey pretty boy Emperor, if you quit now I won't have to disgrace you, and because I'm such a nice guy, I won't even tell your captains that you lost to me. Naruto remained silent and casually looked at Ao. I grow tired of your drivel. Aizen, please let's begin this battle. I have more important matters to attend to. Ao's eyes narrowed. Who does this brat think he is to dismiss me like this? In my day, that boy wouldn't even have the courage to talk to me like that. First move is yours, Ao-san. Ao wasted no time and quickly deactivated the seals that surrounded his eye. He quickly flashed through multiple seals and yelled water style. Explosive water shockwave. Ao unleashed a large torrent of water from his mouth, quickly turning the forest terrain into a water terrain. Naruto looked on with boredom and said that was quite possibly the worst move you could have possibly made. Ao scoffed. Silence, boy. Soon enough you will be regretting those words. Water style, water dragon bullet. Yelled Ao. The water dragon rose quickly and quickly launched itself at Naruto with freighting speed. Naruto calmly rose his hand and activated his Rinnegan simultaneously, and he calmly muttered. Shinra Tensei, the dragon was immediately destroyed. However, it didn't stop there. The strength of the attack lifted Ao off his feet and blasted him into several trees, uprooting all of them. Naruto sighed in boredom. Ao-san, that was rather anticlimactic. I was expecting more of a challenge. Ao attempted to move from his down position, but was unable to do so. To be able to defeat Ao with one jutsu is no easy feat. With him, we just might be able to defeat the Mizukichi, thought Mei in complete shock and excitement. Naruto looked at Ao and sighed dramatically. I guess this battle is over. It was entertaining while it lasted, but if you're not going to get up, I have other matters to attend to. Ao in response staggered to his feet. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow. Ao-san, it is not a cowardly act for you to admit defeat against a stronger foe. Silence, we Kirin fight with honor and to the death. Losing in battle is the worst dishonor for a shinobi, said Ao fiercely, passionately. And it because of that very mentality, you are currently the weakest hidden village as of right now, stated Naruto. Ao eyes narrowed in anger. How dare you SP-? Silence. I've lost interest in this battle. The inevitable outcome is your defeat. However, if you feel so strongly about Kiri, instead of foolishly rushing to your death, why not help with the rebellion your party started? Why not fight for the people of Kiri who cannot fight for themselves? Spoke Naruto with wisdom far above his age. Ao was taken back by the Emperor's word, and after a couple seconds, he grunted in acknowledgement. Mei decided to add her 2 cents in. If you don't mind my asking, Emperor-sama, what was that technique you used just now? Naruto glanced at Mei for a good moment until she felt she had crossed a line, but he suddenly spoke. Shinra Tensei is a jutsu provided to me by my Rinnegan. That is all I will reveal on the matter. Mei nodded politely, but on the inside she was thinking up a storm. Shinra Tensei, that technique completely obliterated the water dragon and defeated Ao in the same go. A technique like that must have some type of drawback. Either way, it's good we have him as an ally and not an enemy. Mei was quickly broken out of her musing when Naruto began to walk away. Emperor-san, where are you going? Questioned Mei. I'm going to the tower. You are welcome to join since it concerns you a great deal. The trio nodded and followed Naruto to the tower. Konoha's tower. So how long did the fool last, my lord? Questioned Danzo with mirth. Naruto glanced at him from his seated position. He lost on my first move. Ao from his position gritted his teeth in anger. Mei saw Ao and placed her hand upon his shoulder in a gesture of telling him to calm down. It had some effect since Ao began to settle down. Now on to other matters. In accordance to my new information concerning our new rebel alliance, our first priority will be Wave Country. In order to launch any type of attack against Kiri, it is imperative for us to settle an establishment close to the terrain. Wave Country is a great vantage point in a war against Kiri. Hayashi Hyugayu and your clan will be the focal point of our attack. Due to the fact Kiri shinobis are primarily water users, the obvious choice would be to use lightning-based attack against them. However, Konoha has a scarcity of lightning user, so the next best option is to fight fire with fire, or in this case water. However, invading Kiri will be the greatest task due to fact it is surrounded by a body of water. They have the advantage along with the mountainous terrain that surrounds the area. That will be their greatest strength and weakness. It is their defense and their cage. I propose that we launch a widespread attack, 2 attacks from the bottom and 1 from the top. I will strike from the top while the rest of you strike from the bottom. As of now, I don't want to spread my forces too thin, so Kurenai Yuhi and Sarutobi and Hayashi will be the only ones that will accompany me in the assault. The rest of you will remain here in case anyone attempts to attack while I'm not here. Itachi will be left in charge. Danzo, you will accompany me in retrieving Lady Tsunade. Meitarumi, Ao and Chojuro, your task is to set up base in the Wave Country. I will shortly come to assist once I have finished my mission. Mei's eyes widened and then narrowed. How on earth can he develop such a complex, detailed plan of an attack on the spot? There's just no possible way that he could plan this assault this quickly. How long have you been planning this attack, Emperor? Ao said, voicing his trio's unsaid thuffet. Naruto did not bother to answer or dignify Ao with a response. Ao repeated himself with more force and authority this time and said, I asked you a question, Emperor Urk. The whole room dropped to below zero. It was so cold that you could see your breath. Naruto's eyes were boring into Ao's single eye. His Rinnegan was on full display. Do not ever presume you have any right to question me, fool. Ao was unable to produce any words. Beads of sweat were dripping down his face. He dropped to his knees under the pressure of Naruto's immense power. He began to shiver and violently convulse. Sire, that is enough, spoke Danzo in a monotone voice. Naruto's eyes widened and his head whizzed at Danzo. For a split second, Danzo's eyes showed brief worry until Naruto nodded. Immediately, everyone felt the pressure decrease, and Ao regained his breathing, and he unconsciously let go of breath he didn't even know he was holding. He glanced nervously at Naruto. However, Naruto did not even grace him with a look. Naruto glanced at Danzo and spoke calmly. Danzo, it's time for us to begin our journey. My contacts say there has been sighting of Tsunade in Tanzaku. We must make great haste in acquiring her. She will be a valuable asset in this upcoming war. Knock knock. Naruto's eyes narrowed. I grow tired of these continuous disturbance, Irika. Naruto hissed irritably. Forgive me, my lord. However, the daimyo has requested an audience. Naruto's eyes widened a bit before he schooled his features and smiled. Well, by all means, send him in. In a grand display, a man dressed in expensive clothes ranging in his late 30s with about 5 other representatives strolled in. I hope you find this village to your liking, daimyo, Naruto smoothly voiced. The daimyo responded in a jovial but serious manner. I had expected you to address your leader with more respect than that, young man. Naruto remained impassive to the daimyo's words. The captains and the Kiri representative all watched in silence. Naruto smiled and said, Forgive me, daimyo, however, I don't see you as my leader. You're nothing but a figurehead. Daimyo lost all his mirth and a scowl immediately formed, which didn't look right on his normal happy features. You do not accept me as ruler of this country, young man? Those words could be described as treason. I've come today because I am ceasing your reign over this village, and the notion that you are the emperor is simply foolish. How could you be the emperor of this village when I am the ruler over this country? Naruto looked genuinely surprised for a second. Daimyo, you are indeed correct. You are the ruler of this country, and there can never be two rulers. The daimyo nodded his head in satisfaction, glad to see the boy understood reason. Destructive Art 4. White lightning. A bolt of lightning struck the daimyo in his head, permanently ending his existence. I'm glad you saw things my way, daimyo. There can only be one ruler. A ruler without the power nor means to rule is no ruler at all. Everyone was left stunned, dazed, in silence. The representative attempted to move, but Naruto calmly snapped his finger, and root agents quickly appeared and had their weapon poised ready for the kill. My, this has been a rather interesting meeting, Representative San. Under Article 14 of the Land of Fire, if the daimyo were to die, it's as up to his representative to appoint the new daimyo. Am I correct in my understanding? The daimyo representative all looked appalled and fearful. However, one of them mustered enough courage to speak. Even if that is true and you forced us to choose you as the new daimyo under that same article, the Hokage cannot become the daimyo. Naruto laughed but conceded, You're very correct in your thinking. The Hokage could never become the daimyo in order to ensure peace and avoid infighting. However, I never proclaimed myself as the Hokage. If I am wrong, feel free to correct me, but I believe I stated I was the emperor of this village, not the Hokage. Naruto finished with a smirk. The captains were left in utter shock. Did he really plan all this from that day? Thought Sarutobi and Kakashi and a few other captains. Danzo, you may proceed. Danzo nodded and walked before the head representative. The representative attempted to back up, but Danzo's arm lashed out, constricting all his movement by grabbing his neck with a firm grip. Danzo unwrapped his bandages on his eye, and his Sharingan was revealed. The rest of the captain gasped in shock. Naruto remained in his seat and continued to look on impassively. The Sharingan in Danzo's eye began to morph until it turned into a 4-star shape, revealing the hailed Manjikyu Sharingan. Danzo calmly muttered in a monotone voice, Kotoamat Tsukumi. The representative ceased all his movements. He seemed to be in somewhat of a trance-like state. Danzo calmly spoke. You will follow Naruto Namikaze and obey him as your new daimyo. You will remain loyal and never question his rule. You will appoint Naruto Namikaze as the new daimyo. Everybody in the room could not believe what they were seeing, and to the fear of the representatives, the head representative repeated everything Danzo said verbatim and then walked up to Naruto and bowed in a submissive act and said, My only goal in life is to follow you, Naruto Namikaze. Naruto nodded. He calmly opened his drawer and pulled out a document. Sign it. This document will appoint me as the new daimyo. The representative nodded, and without any hesitation, he quickly signed his name. The other representative looked on in shock and horror. They could not believe what they were witnessing. Naruto smiled menacingly. Root, dispose of the rest of the other representative. I have no further use for them. Blood marred the floors and bodies hit the floor. Everyone in the room was in total silence, not believing what they had just witnessed. A perfectly executed coup without any effort was exacted just before their eyes. Naruto's eyes showed no emotions to death that had transpired before him. It was as if he was devoid of any emotion. He spoke stoically. Representative San, what is your name? The representative spoke fluidly, as if he were perfectly fine. My name is Amaya Beniko. Very well, Amaya, your first order is to reveal to the country the new daimyo once you have made it to the capital. Amaya nodded and left without a word. Naruto sighed. Danzo, there has been a slight change in plans. As of today, I'm tasking you with the responsibility of the Land of Fire's security. We are currently in the reconstructing phase. It's your job to set up a new formation of defense. Anyone who is not a Konoha citizen should find it impossible to get in the Land of Fire by any means. Feel free to incorporate the newly acquired samurai I now have under my direct command to aid it. I will go capture Tsunade on my own. I expect all of you to accomplish your task upon my return. Everything that has transpired today is a triple S ranked secret. Anyone who reveals this matter will be dealt swiftly and accordingly. Danzo nodded his head in understanding and voiced his concerns. What would you have me do with the bodies? Naruto paused for a second, briefly glancing distastefully at the deceased daimyo and the representatives on the floor, and spoke firmly. Cover up this matter and plant evidence of their betrayal. Danzo spoke once more. There is another matter at hand, where we will now get the funds to run the country now that the daimyo has died? Asked Danzo. Worry not, I will personally take care of that matter, finished Naruto. Naruto-kun, how could you kill the daimyo? Questioned Kurenai in total shock. Naruto glanced at Kurenai and the rest of the captains. Most of them were shaken up by what they've seen. Sarutobi remained calm. Danzo was indifferent. The rest varied from shock and disbelief to finally acceptance. His death was needed. For me to create the world we desire, sinful acts must be committed. I must wage war on the other nation. My hands will become contaminated and soaked in blood. In order to achieve peace, I must do what must be done. We live in the shinobi world, and for us to succeed, I must become a cold-blooded shinobi. I will do what I must to achieve peace. Hayashi hesitated for a second and nodded his head. The ends justify the means. Any emperor saw. All that matters is results. If I am forced to commit atrocious crimes, so be it. If need be, I will dispose of my humanity if it results in peace. Answered Naruto. Kakashi Hitaki might guy. Inform Itachi of what has transpired during this meeting. I'm giving you two the task of protecting and securing Konoha in my absence. Sarutobi, you will lead the group of you Kurenai, Hayashi, and the rebel faction. Naruto gave a brief nod to those who were in the chamber and left. Outside Konoha's gates, Naruto wasted no time and quickly took the trees and dashed to his destination. Casino Tsunade POV. Yes, that's another win for me, Shizune. With this much money, I will be able to pay all the debts away, said Tsunade. However, she was thinking differently. My luck is never this good unless something bad is about to happen. Well, whatever it is, I deal with it when it happens. Tsunade-sama, please let's leave. We don't want to lose the 30 million ryo we already made today, spoke Shizune worriedly. Tsunade responded quickly. Come on, Shizune, stop being so boring. I'm on winning streak. Let me play another hand. Shizune sighed in defeat. Fine. I'm placing 15 million ryo on this bet, spoke a rather young-looking man who was wearing a golden cloak with long gold hair. The cashier looked at the man with suspicion. Do you have that type of money, young man? The man wasted no time and pulled out a suitcase out of a ceiling scroll. Immediately alarms went off in Tsunade. Heads, he must be a ninja, a fairly gifted one at that, to conceal his chakra, so I barely registered him entering the casino. The tall stranger calmly opened the suitcase to reveal a large gross of money. The cashier smiled greedily. All right, let me take that for you and convert it into coins. Naruto smiled under his disguise. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. Something about this guy rubbed her the wrong way. I have 15M on this bet as well, Tsunade said with smirk. Let's see what this guy got. Naruto smiled. Ladies first. Tsunade smiled. Why, thank you. The dealer calmly dealt Tsunade a set of cards and then gave Naruto a set as well. Tsunade showed no emotion on the outside but was inwardly jumping for joy. 4 queens, this is the best hand I had all day. There's no way I can lose. I'll stay. I'm good as it is, spoke Tsunade. The dealer turned his attention to Naruto and said, What do you want to do? I'm fine as well, stated Naruto. The dealer nodded and Tsunade smiled and slammed her cards on the table for queens red M and weep. She smiled victoriously and placed her hand on the sum of money, but it didn't last long. My dear, that is quite a formidable hand. However, the queen stands no chance against the king, for kings," stated Naruto. Tsunade was in absolute shock. She was completely livid. "I just lost 15M, I gotta get it back, rematch." Naruto smiled, "So be it." 15 minutes later, Tsunade's eyes were the size of saucer. "There's no way this kid could beat me this easily. Something is just not right here." Tsunade took another glance at Naruto, and her eyes narrowed. He was using a Jinjutsu to cover his feature, a weak Jinjutsu at that. Tsunade muttered a quick kai, and her eyes widened. "That's the Rinnegan," Tsunade thought. "Now I get it. This kid been using his eyes to remember and predict the cards. He will get that cheater." Tsunade erupted from her seat and grabbed Naruto roughly from his cloak, lifting him up from his seat. "I know how you have been winning." "Oh, and how is that?" asked Naruto. "You've been using your dojutsu to cheat." Naruto showed no reaction to statement, but asked curiously, "So, how is that cheating? Is it cheating for a genius to use his superior mind to memorize the cards of a deck? How is it cheating to use the eyesight I was born with to win?" Tsunade blinked olishly. "The kid had a good point, clever bastard. Besides, it is not my fault you didn't catch on to my Jinjutsu quick enough to not lose all your money. Maybe you should release me. You know, in your old age you could easily strain or even pull a muscle." Tsunade released a dangerous amount of ki that made all the males shiver and pray for the poor boy's soul. He was a walking dead man. "I dare you say that one more time, just one more time." Naruto cocked his head to the side and said, "Did I hit a nerve?" "Bachin," enunciating each letter of the word deviously. Tsunade twitched in anger. "Let's take this outside, kid." Naruto smiled. "Lead the way, Bachan." Both shinobi left. Shizen spoke worriedly. "Tsunade-sama, please stop. He's just a kid. Can't we just let it go? Besides, if you cause any more damage, we will be in a larger debt than we already are in, if that is at all possible." "You should listen to your friend Bachan. I mean, if you are who I think you are, you must be rolling in debt, and me beating you won't change that. On second thought, it might just help you out. Allow me to propose a bet. If you beat me, I'll give you all the money I won as of today." Tsunade's eyes widened, and then she got a large grin on her face. "This kid may sound confident, but he has no idea who is going against. Man, my luck sure is good today. And what happens if you win? You'll become my loyal subordinate." Tsunade's eyes twitched in anger. "You pervert. I'll beat the perversion out of you before it gets too far." Naruto looked on and said with smug grin, "Don't flatter yourself, Bachan. You're like, what, 50? Besides, I already have 2 girlfriends. You're not needed." This did not appease Tsunade's anger in any way. In fact, it made her angrier. You whore. I know your type. You use everyone girl you meet and never commit to one." Naruto sighed. "You've got the wrong idea, Bachan. I'm the last of my clan. I'm required to marry multiple brides to ensure that my clan does not meet extinction." Tsunade scoffed in disbelief. "Oh, and pray tell, what clan do you belong to, boy?" "The Uzumaki clan." Tsunade responded angrily. "Bullshit, I know the Uzumaki clan very well. I am part Uzumaki myself, and there is only one other Uzumaki alive." Naruto smiled. "You correct, I am Naruto Namikaze." Tsunade's eyes widened, and then narrowed. "I'll admit you do look a lot like Minato. However, I'm not stupid. If you're Naruto, you should only be 14. By the looks of it, you're 16, pushing 17. If there are techniques to slow down the aging processing, wouldn't it only be logical that there are techniques to speed up the process as well?" argued Naruto. Tsunade paused momentarily. "The kid does have a point, and he does look awfully like Minato." "Say I believe you. What business do you have with me?" "Oh, I'm pretty sure I told you already. You will become my subordinate." Tsunade roared in laughter. "And why on earth would I become the subordinate of anyone bar the Hokage?" Naruto looked on impassively. Shizen decided to interrupt. "My lady, if he is indeed Naruto Namikaze, then he is not only the Hokage but the daimyo of the Fire Country." Tsunade glanced at Naruto, and then Shizen in shock. "When did this happen?" Shizen sighed tiredly. "I told you this before, but I guess you don't remember because you were heavily intoxicated." Tsunade nodded her head in understanding. "Well, I must say that is certainly a surprise. I can't see Sensei handing the title over to you no matter how gifted you might be." "You misunderstand. He did not hand the title over. I took it. I defeated him in a duel for leadership over the village. Tsunade laughed loudly. There is no way you could have defeated Sensei. Even I couldn't even do it. Indeed, you weaker than me, that is all, Naruto stated. Tsunade's eyes twitched in anger and her nostrils flared. What did you say, brat? Naruto spoke calmly. I'm stronger than you, Tsunade. Tsunade nodded her head and took off her coat and said, That's what I thought you said, Shizen. Give me 5 minutes, that's all I'll need to beat this kid. Shizen sighed but nodded. Okay, Tsunade-sama, but if you're going to fight, can we at least change the location? I don't want to have to pay for any more damages. Tsunade nodded in agreement. Hey kid, follow us, and you're on. Winning this bet is going to be a piece of cake. Naruto said nothing but followed the two ladies. Sasuke POV. Both brothers said nothing to one another, only staring at each other, trying to gauge each other's reaction. Is it true, did you kill the clan because you were ordered to? Asked Sasuke. Hi, in order to ensure peace, I did what I felt was right. Sasuke said nothing and his head was cast down, allowing his bangs to obscure his vision. I see, Itachi. I always thought you were a traitor to the village and that you killed your clan for no reason. I was wrong, you were a traitor, but not to the village, but to the clan. You killed mom and dad and the entire clan for the sake of this village. You are no brother of mine. You told me to live and grow stronger to kill you. I swear to you, Itachi, I will be the one to end your life. I will kill you, and in doing so, I will avenge the clan. With those words, Sasuke walked away. Sasuke, wait. Sasuke turned and faced Itachi. His eyes were full of hatred. Why, if I don't, will you kill me too? Itachi looked taken back, and if you looked close enough, you could see he was hurt. I see, Sasuke. I can see you will never be able to forgive me. Where will you go if you leave? Naruto will likely kill you. Sasuke's eyes narrowed, but he didn't refute Itachi. He's not wrong. Naruto was able to defeat the Hokage, and by the looks of it, he's grown even stronger. He's by far my greatest threat at the moment. I'm leaving this village. I will gain power on my own, and when I come back, I will destroy you and this village. Sasuke walked away after about 5 meters. He turned his head to look at Itachi one last time, and with that glance, he disappeared with the wind, never to be seen again. Itachi looked on sadly. Forgive me, Sasuke, however, I will not allow you to destroy this village. I will bear your hatred alone. Remote location in the woods. Hey brat, you ready? Asked Tsunade. Naruto did not respond and calmly launched a kunai at Tsunade with frightening speed. Tsunade smirked, and with great expertise, she caught it between her finger. She flipped the kunai and threw it at Naruto. It went double the speed Naruto threw it. Naruto calmly tilted his head and allowed the kunai to sail past his head. His eyes were trained on Tsunade the whole time. Tsunade wasted no time and dashed forward with great speed at Naruto. Naruto, in response, dashed forward, as well, surprising Tsunade. The kid's going to try to fight me up. Close guess. He's not as smart as I thought he was. Tsunade aimed a punch at Naruto's head. Naruto's arm lashed out and grabbed Tsunade by the wrist, halting her movement. Tsunade's eyes widened in shock. You are indeed strong, Tsunade, however your attack is greatly flawed. The technique focuses chakra into the hands of the user. Using precise chakra control, you releases it with pinpoint timing, creating a devastating effect. However, if the attack does not land on solid surface, it is rendered useless. Could he really have discovered the weakness of my attack with a single glance? I see he is no ordinary kid. Tsunade, in response, flexed her hand and broke free of Naruto's grasp. She aimed another punch at Naruto, and Naruto effectively dodged each of them. However, he was not prepared for when Tsunade grabbed the back of his cloak and slammed him into the ground. Tsunade smiled in satisfaction. However, it did not last long when the Naruto in front of her disappeared in a flock of crows. Tsunade quickly placed her hand in the ram seal and muttered a small kai. Her eyes widened greatly. Naruto was charging at her with a ball condescend chakra she knew all too well. She quickly punched the ground with her enhanced strength, causing a large fissure to appear in the ground. Naruto quickly jumped to higher grounds to avoid the attack. Naruto flashed through a chain of seals and shouted, "Fire style!" Roar of the fire dragon. A dragon of epic proportion erupted from Naruto's mouth and attacked Tsunade with devastating speed. Tsunade's eyes showed no hesitation, and with her bare hands she attacked the dragon, dispelling the fire. Naruto followed with another series of seals and yelled, "Lava style!" Lava apparition. A large wave of lava sprouted from Naruto's mouth and was launched at Tsunade. Tsunade quickly went through a series of hand seal herself and yelled, "Water style!" Water gun bullet. She sent a large torrent of water at rapid speeds towards the lava. Upon contact, the lava and the water created an abundance of steam, and after a brief moment the lava subsided and cooled to form new earth. Tsunade wasted no time and broke through the earth, aiming to attack Naruto. Her eyes widened greatly when she saw Naruto in the ram seal already finished with his jutsu. Wind style. Great break through a large gust of wind blasted Tsunade. Naruto's eyes showed brief surprise when Tsunade erupted in a plume of smoke. Shadow clone. Naruto questioned surprised. Naruto allowed his eyes to survey the area. She conceals her chakra. Well, even with my Rinnegan, I am unable to detect her presence. I guess that only leaves one option. I'll have to flush her out. Wood release. Advent of a world of flowering trees. Trees began to grow on all surfaces in an instant. In a matter of seconds, a dense forest of flowering trees bloomed. Pollen was then released into the atmosphere from the flower. Naruto watched patiently for any signs of Tsunade in her hiding spot. Tsunade was in shock. That's MOKUTON. How does he have it? Shit, I know this jutsu. That pollen is going to render me unconscious if I don't destroy them soon enough. Tsunade dashed to the center of the forest, and with one devastating punch, she destroyed all of trees, uprooting all of them. Such terrifying destructive force. It seems I'll have to take this a bit seriously, thought Naruto, impressed by Tsunade's strength. Tsunade's eyes narrowed and were focused solely on Naruto. Naruto, however, remained impassive to Tsunade's stare and calmly placed his hand in the cross seal and muttered shadow clone jutsu. Two clone appeared next to Naruto and immediately went through a series of hand seal and finished in the ram seal. Both clone inhaled a large quantity of air and yelled fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu, unleashing two gigantic balls of fire which combined together to create a larger inferno of flames. Naruto watched the flames and flash through his onset of seals and yelled wind style. Great break through once more. The wind increased the fire to unbelievable proportions. The fire incinerated everything in its path and created a large explosion, blasting tree branches everywhere. After a couple seconds, the raging fire subsided. Naruto calmly strolled to where Tsunade was last seen, with his shadow clones accompanying him like his bodyguards. He surveyed the vicinity once more, and his eyes narrowed. There was not a single trace of Tsunade. His eyes widened briefly when he was forced to backflip out of the way to avoid a strike from Tsunade. Naruto inspected Tsunade, and to his amazement, she was perfectly fine. I see. She escaped by attack, by jumping over the ball of flames, and used the sun to blind my Rinnegan at the same time. Such battle prowess. She is indeed of Senju descent. Naruto nodded to his shadow clone, and both clones engaged Tsunade in a fierce taijutsu battle. The first clone jumped and aimed a roundhouse kick at Tsunade's head. Tsunade reacted quickly and caught the clone's leg, and in a display of great strength she spun on her heel and tossed the clone at the other clone, dispelling both of them. Tsunade cracked her knuckles. I must say you not half bad, Brett. I almost have a mind to think you beat the old monkey. Naruto remained unresponsive and pointed his finger at Tsunade. Destructive Art 4. White lightning. A bolt of lightning blasted out of Naruto's finger towards Tsunade. Tsunade reacted quickly and attempted to move aside, but Naruto yelled in response, Bansho Tenin, and aimed his hand at Tsunade's legs, forcing her to tilt her body, leaving her off balance, allowing the beam of lightning to penetrate her in her collarbone. Tsunade dropped to the floor and clutched her shoulder in pain. She looked at her blood. Shit, what was that just now? It felt like I lost control of my body, thought Tsunade. Her hand momentarily glowed green, and in a matter of seconds, when she was fully healed, she calmly rose to her feet and glared daggers at Naruto. I was going to take it easy on you because you're Kushina's kid, but because of that last stunt you're probably going to die. Naruto merely rose an eyebrow. His eyes widened a fraction when Tsunade raced through a string of seals and bit her thumb and slammed it on the ground, yelling summoning jutsu. In massive plume of smoke, Tsunade appeared standing on top, cut through the Slug Queen in all her glory. Naruto looked on in boredom. I must say that was rather disappointing. What use is a slug in battle? Tsunade's eyes twitched at the insult. Katsu, show this brat what you're made of. Hi-sune-sama, responded Katsu. Katsu aimed at Naruto and spat a large amount of green liquid at Naruto. Naruto muttered a quick curse and dashed to the left to avoid the glob of acid. I ain't so tough now, brat. Naruto glanced up distastefully at Tsunade and spoke solemnly. Forgive me, Tsunade, but I can't afford to waste any more time on this battle. Oh, you speak as if you can win even though the odds are stacked against you, said Tsunade smugly. Naruto closed his eyes for a brief moment, leading Tsunade to arch her brows in confusion. Naruto slowly opened his eyes to reveal the legendary Rinnegan. Once more, however, something was different about them. They radiated with more power, and now they were glowing. Tsunade gasped in shock. Naruto raised his hand and muttered in a monotone drawl, Shinra Tensei. The effect were instantaneous. Katsu was blasted 100 meters away, eradicating all the trees in the process, forcing her to dispel. Shizen looked on in total shock and disbelief. Naruto sighed and calmly strode to Tsunade. In a matter of minutes, Naruto was standing over Tsunade, who was currently submerged under a pile of multiple trees with blood covering her face. Naruto smirked, "You're good, Tsunade." And with those words, Naruto spun quickly and planted his fist seemingly into nothing but air. Slowly the world began to contort, and Tsunade was on the other end of Naruto's fist. The Tsunade under the pile of trees dissolved away. Tsunade grunted in pain. Naruto smiled maliciously. It must be humbling for you to be so utterly outclassed by my skill. Tsunade scoffed and spoke in a rugged breath. Don't get cocky, boy. This battle is far from over. Naruto looked on in amusement. And what exactly do you plan on doing in your disheveled state? Tsunade smirked and erupted in another plume of smoke. Naruto looked on impassively and glanced up at the sky. How long will we continue to play this foolish game of hide and seek? Tsunade? Tsunade from her hiding spot was currently healing her bruised stomach. The brat is indeed talented, however, every shinobi has a weakness. Naruto continued strolling around the forest terrain in search of Tsunade. His eye darted to the right, and he narrowly avoided Tsunade's fist. Naruto looked at Tsunade curiously. Something's off. Why would she assault me with another frontal attack? Tsunade launched a quick session of jabs at Naruto, and Naruto responded with great flexibility and evaded each and every blow until Tsunade grabbed Naruto's wrist. Naruto's eyes widened momentarily before he quickly schooled his feature. I finally caught you, brat. Naruto's eyes glazed over when he was shocked with a large volume of electricity. Naruto spoke dangerously. What have you done, women? Tsunade smirked. Even though she was tattered with bruised, she managed to put on a weak smile and said, I rearranged the circuits in your body. Tsunade smiled in victory and attempted to deliver the finishing blow. However, Naruto spoke once more, Shinra Tensei. Tsunade was lifted off her feet and blasted about 15 meters away. Tsunade landed rather gracefully on her feet. I see you are able to use the jutsu without your hands. However, it is significantly weaker when you do so. Naruto said no words to confirm or deny her claim and continued to look unfazed. Tsunade dashed forward at Naruto with her hands cocked back once more. Naruto looked on impassively. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. How can he still be so calm? Tsunade was about 5 feet away when Naruto finally made his move and calmly spoke his signature jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, and immediately a clone of Naruto appeared. Tsunade's eyes widened to the size of saucers. A shadow clone without any hand seals? The clone wasted no time and delivered a perfect sidekick to Tsunade's abdomen, sending her sailing away. She fell to the ground with a low thud. Tsunade grunted from her down position and rose to her feet. Once more, I get it now. Although he managed to hold his own against me in taijutsu, but his real strength lies in his ninjutsu and jinjutsu, and right now his only means of defense is that shadow clone. Tsunade cracked her knuckles and slammed her fist with great force into the ground, creating a devastating earthquake. Naruto's clone quickly scooped Naruto and dodged the assault. Naruto looked at Tsunade and said confidently, You have reached your limit, Tsunade. You no longer have any chakra to use. If you continue anymore, it will only be harmful to you. Tsunade looked at Naruto, who was currently standing in a tree alongside his clone. I won't give up so easily. I'll show how I earned the moniker as the legendary Sannin. Naruto glanced amusedly at Tsunade and then laughed. What's so funny, brat? You're a fool, Tsunade. You earned the title Sannin because Hanzo took pity on you. In a 3-on-1 handicap battle, you were forced to submit, and he allowed you to live. You earned your title Sannin because you survived against him and he pitied you. That is not an accomplishment to be proud of. It seems I allowed this battle drag out long enough. Tsunade glanced at Naruto tiredly, but with a quick succession of seals, Tsunade muttered one last jutsu. In seal. Release. The diamond on Tsunade's head dissolved, revealing markings of some sort. Tsunade flashed through another seal and yelled strength of 100 technique. The strange markings on her forehead began to spread throughout her body. Naruto watched with curiosity, allowing her to finish. Are you done, Tsunade? Tsunade said no words and settled into her fighting stance and fixed Naruto with an intense stare full of complete conviction and determination. The battle starts now. Naruto shook his head in a negative motion. On the contrary, Tsunade, this battle is over. Rain across the frosty heaven. Hirinru. An immaculate Zanpakuto formed in Naruto's hand. Naruto calmly dropped from his position in the tree and calmly strode towards Tsunade and spoke swift release. Flash step. Tsunade's eyes only saw blood. A large splash of blood erupted in front of her face. She looked down only to see a katana protruding from her belly. She glanced behind and saw Naruto looking at her. I see all this time. He was holding back. I avoided all your organs. This is merely a flesh wound. Naruto gracefully retracted his sword and swiped his blade to remove the blood that once coated it. Is that any way to treat a lady, Naruto? Naruto showed no reaction to the new presence. Grandpa, what are you doing here? Questioned Naruto. Jiraiya appeared 10 feet away from Naruto, and he had a frown upon his face. He spoke in a serious tone. I was on my way to Konoha when I saw a large explosion in this area. I decided to go investigate. Naruto, what are you doing attacking Tsunade? Naruto deactivated his Rinnegan and turned his head towards Jiraiya, allowing his cold blue eyes to pierce Jiraiya's soul. Is that how you talk to your leader, Jonin? Jiraiya looked at Naruto in disbelief. Jonin, I'm one of the 3 legendary Sannin, responded Jiraiya. The Sannin is nothing but a title. It is not a rank. In all actuality, you are nothing but a Jonin, and as your emperor you required to follow all my orders. Jiraiya sighed in defeat. So my intel was right. You managed to defeat Sensei in a duel, and you're the new Hokage, as well as daimyo of the Land of Fire. Naruto simply nodded. Grandpa, I'm putting a temporary stop on your spy network. You are needed in the village for my upcoming plans. Jiraiya nodded his head. And what plans are we talking about? In a month, Konoha will invade Kiri. Tsunade and Jiraiya's eyes widened in shock. You can't be serious. If we attack Kiri, it will unequivocally lead to a 4th Great Shinobi War. Why are you doing this? Grandpa, do you remember what you told me before you left? Huh, Jiraiya intelligently replied. Flashback. 5-year-old Naruto was currently sitting in a ramen stand accompanied by Jiraiya. Oh, is that Namikaze-sama? My, you've grown so big. You're a spitting image of our beloved 4th Hokage. We all expect great thing out of you, young man. Study hard. Naruto nodded calmly and spoke in stoic voice. Hi. Jiraiya looked down at Naruto. Sadly, the boy was having too much pressure pressed on him. This type of pressure led many shinobi to crack. Jiraiya smiled and ruffled up Naruto's head. Now don't go all moody on me, Naruto. Naruto glanced up at Jiraiya and smiled. Okay, Grandpa. Hey kid, stop calling me Grandpa. I'm not that old. I don't look a day over 35. Jiraiya spoke with mock anger. Naruto sighed sadly. Okay, Jiraiya-san. Jiraiya looked taken back and waved his hand frantically. I was just kidding, Naruto. You can call me Grandpa anytime you want. Naruto smiled a brilliant smile. Okay, Grandpa. Jiraiya nodded. There's a good boy. Naruto looked down at his bowl dispassionately. Jiraiya seemed to notice Naruto's downcast mood. What's the matter, brat? Grandpa, why do people die? Why do we kill each other? Jiraiya showed no emotions. It's expected. It's only natural for him to want to know the circumstances behind his father's death. Death is an inevitable part of life, Naruto. If life didn't have a limit, people wouldn't be inclined to live life. Now the reason people kill each other is a harder one to explain. People kill each other for different reasons. People sometimes want to protect their precious people, and sometimes it results in killing other people. Does this make sense to you, Naruto? Naruto thought about it for a second. Hi, Grandpa. Will there be a time when we won't have to kill each other and be able to get along? Jiraiya smiled a genuine smile. I hope so. It said that one day a ninja who wields the sage's eyes will bring a massive change in the world that will change ninja world for the better or worse. I believe that you, Naruto, will be the one to achieve peace. Naruto eyes widened in surprise. Really, Grandpa? Of course, Naruto. I have the utmost faith in you. Never forget that I'm always here for you. Naruto smiled, and Jiraiya gave Naruto a hug. Flashback end. Grandpa, I'm going to unite this world under one empire. Once I have achieved my goal, the ninja world will fail to exist, spoke Naruto fiercely. You're still a child. Naruto, even if you unite everyone through that means that won't necessarily mean that we will come to understand one another, argued Jiraiya. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. You're correct, Grandpa. That is up to the people of the world. I cannot give people the wisdom to accept one another. I'm not God. However, I can at least unite them under one force. The rest will be up to humanity. Jiraiya sighed in acknowledgement. I guess it's pointless arguing with you, Naruto. Besides, I said I always got your back. There's no reason for me to turn now. That's what I was counting on, Grandpa, said Naruto with a genuine smile. Tsunade watched the scene distantly. I guess you won, Brad. I am a woman of my word. I'll follow you. Good. From this on, you will wear this cloak at all times to distinguish yourselves among other shinobis. As of now, you are my 8th Captain Tsunade. Jiraiya, you will become my 9th. And with that, Naruto pulled out 2 scrolls out of a summoning pouch. Hey kid, what was that jutsu you used against me back there? I never seen anything like that, said Tsunade curiously and grumpily. Shinra Tensei and Bansho Tenin are jutsu provided to me by my Rinnegan. It allows me to control gravity and allows me to bend it to my will, answered Naruto casually. We need to travel to the wave country. That is where I want forward operating base alpha setup. Tsunade, you will accompany me to the wave country. Jiraiya, I need for you to help Danzo set up a defense system for the land of fire with your skills in Fuinjutsu. I can think of no better man for the job. After you are finished, you are free to leave the village if you want, Grandpa. Tsunade nodded. Jiraiya slung an arm over Naruto and said jovially, Come on, Brad, I told you before I'll be here for you. Don't expect to bail on you now. Naruto nodded his head, and the group of shinobi left. Walked to the wave country. I must say I never expected myself to be on the front lines again. It brings back memories, said Sarutobi nostalgically, who was currently walking at a steady pace. Shouldn't we hurry, Sarutobi-san? The Emperor said he wanted to set up base in wave country before his arrival? Question May. Sarutobi looked at her and gave her a warm, grandfatherly, disarming smile. My dear, if I know Naruto, that won't be possible. He will likely be there before we even make it to the wave village. It seems the boy has a problem trusting people, stated Ao grumpily. It's quite possible he does have trust issues, but if you are one of the few people Naruto trusts, you won't find a more loyal companion. Hayashi nodded his head in affirmation. You're quite right, Sarta-sama. At first I was questionable on following young Naruto's orders. We even butted heads on a few occasions, which resulted badly on my end. However, when my daughter was kidnapped, he rescued her without a second thought. So what type of person is the Emperor? Questioned May. Sarutobi's eyes gazed on her, and after he saw that she had no malicious intent, he answered her. Naruto is a very unique individual. I myself don't have a full understanding on him, but he is a good man who means well in his own way. Sarutobi-san, did the Emperor really defeat you in battle? Asked Ao heatedly. Kurenai, Hayashi and Sarutobi looked at him suspiciously, but Sarutobi decided to answer. Hi, he did so at age 13 no less. Ao's eyes widened. Preposterous, you are the kami of shinobi. How could a mere boy defeat you? The captains looked at Ao in understanding. All of them didn't believe that Naruto was capable of defeating Sarutobi, including Sarutobi himself. It was quite the surprise for me as well. Naruto is a very special individual, Although he is highly gifted in the art of ninjutsu and aspects of shinobi, I believe his strength actually lies in his mind. He utterly dominated me throughout the battle. He knew all my weakness and effectively used them against me. It was a close battle, and he managed to defeat me in the final moments. However, that was a while ago. There's no doubt in my mind he's managed to get much stronger after that fight. I wouldn't mind having a spar with that man. Chojuro decided to get in on the conversation as well. Who trained him to be that strong? Sarutobi scratched his beard and thought, I'm not actually sure. I'm sure his godfather Jiraiya may have given him tips, but I suppose the rest was up to him. Chojuro looked at Sarutobi in awe. Wait, you said Jiraiya, as in Jiraiya of the Sannin. That's the Emperor's godfather. Sarutobi glanced at Chojuro suspiciously. He assumed that was common knowledge. Naruto's godfather is Jiraiya. Mei and Ao both looked particularly surprised at the revelation. And who would his parents be? Sarutobi said with a smirk, Naruto's mother is Kushina, the red hot-blooded habanero, the princess of the Uzumaki clan, and his father is our late beloved fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze. Ao, Mei, and Chojuro eyes bulged out of their sockets. Mei asked another question. Why didn't he say he was a Namikaze? All he said was his name was Naruto. Sarutobi responded grimly. Naruto is a very prideful person. He does not like to use his father's fame for his own benefit. If anything, he views it as a curse. As a boy, Naruto always held an unreasonably high expectation placed on him by the village and even by myself. I always told Naruto stories of how great his father was and how he had big shoes to fill. Naruto always felt second place to his father. He never made friends. Many were envious of him because of his great gifts, and others were intimidated of him because of those same gifts. He never truly knew whether his friends were there for sake of him alone. The top is a lonely place to be. He had a very lonely childhood. It was only bearable because of his godfather, who raised him growing up. However, that all changed when he left. Mei and Chojuro looked down sadly. While it sounds like he had a rough childhood, you would never know when you look at him. Sarutobi nodded in agreement. Yes, Naruto tends to keep to himself. He presents himself as a cold and emotionless individual. However, I believe that there are still remnants of the old Naruto somewhere. Sarutobi's eyes showed no emotion when a large hurricane appeared before him. My, Emperor-sama, you're always one for theatrics. The hurricane eventually died down, revealing Tsunade, Naruto, and Shizune. It's been a while, sensei, said Tsunade. Far too long, my dear. Tsunade enveloped Sarutobi in a father-daughter hug. Naruto watched the scene from afar, and then his eyes gazed at the stars. I'm surprised you came back, Tsunade, stated Sarutobi. The brat didn't make it easy for me to say no, sensei, replied Tsunade. Multiple members gasped when Tsunade called the Emperor brat. However, Naruto didn't seem to notice or care for that matter. Maybe you should tell the full story, Bachan, quipped Naruto. Tsunade's eyes twitched in anger, and she shook her fist angrily. I told you to stop calling me that brat, yelled Tsunade. I'm not obligated to listen to you, Tsunade. You, on the other hand, aren't so lucky, stated Naruto with an insufferable smirk. We will break now and rest. We will move once more in the morning, ordered Naruto. The group began to pull out multiple storage scrolls and began to sleep in their bags. Did you forget your bag, Naruto-kun? I don't mind sharing with you, answered Kurenai. Naruto looked at her appreciatively. That is not needed, Kurenai. Naruto went through a few seals, drawing everyone's attention. Would release. 4-pillar house technique. In a matter of seconds, a house sprouted from the ground. Well, that's convenient, stated Tsunade smartly. Everyone nodded their head in agreement. There are 4 rooms. Tsunade, Shizune, Mei will be in room 1. Ao, Chojuro, Hayashi will be in room 2. Sarutobi, you will be in room 3. And me and Kurenai will be in room 4. That is all. Everyone get some sleep. We move in the morning. Everyone went to their assigned rooms without any arguments. The next day morning, the group packed quickly and began walking to their destination, only to stop when they noticed a puddle in front of them. Naruto's hand slashed out with Hirinmaru held in grasp, poised for the kill. 2 ninjas bursted out of the water. Who are you? The Meizu and Goza brothers asked in unison. Naruto looked at them and said, Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. You tried to kill us, and you don't even know who we are? Asked Meizu. Naruto retracted his sword and spoke dangerously, make way now, or die. Both ninjas were about to retort until they saw Naruto's eyes. All their words died in their throat, and the both of them nodded, allowing Naruto passage along with his companions. Hideout. What do you mean? You let them go, roared Zabuza. Boss, there was nothing we could do. He was going to kill us. Besides, he had Sarutobi Hiruzen, Kami no Shinobi with him, and clan head Hayashi Hyuga and Jinjutsu mistress Kurenai. Along Mei Terumi and Ao, there were a couple of others we both don't know. Also, the way they walked behind him, it was evident he was the strongest one out of them. Did you say Mei Terumi? Hi boss, she was with him, answered Meizu. I guess that means she did it. She secured an alliance with Konoha. I guess it's about time for a family reunion. Wave Country. The group was currently standing in front of the Wave people, the citizen of the Wave Country, all gathered upon Naruto and company's arrival. Who was the leader of this village? Questioned Naruto in an authoritative voice. Daigato scum, yelled Tazuna, who was rushing with what appeared to be some makeshift weapon. Naruto reacted with swift, fluid movements. His hand lashed out, grabbing the weapon, and in the process, he used the weapon as leverage and catapulted Tazuna to the ground. Tazuna looked up to see his own weapon pointed at his gullet. He looked on nervously, but attempted to put on a brave face in front of his people. Naruto I showed no mercy at Tazuna, and he spoke dangerously. Those who attack me are usually met with certain death. However, you intrigue me, old man. Why is it you attack me? Tazuna looked at Naruto suspiciously. Are you not one of Gato's men? Naruto shook his head dismissively. I'm here on different matters. I'm here to set up base here for my upcoming plans, that is all. Tazuna's eyes widened and nodded. I'll let you set up whatever you want here if you help protect our village against Gato and kill him. By the way, you just defeated me. It would be no problem for you. Naruto showed no emotions and spoke calmly. You have no power to suggest such a deal. What prevents me from simply using force? Tazuna, I showed worry. Please help us. Gato is a horrible man. Please stop his rule. I know I have no right to ask this off you, but please grant this old man this one wish. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. I understand your dilemma, however I cannot help you. Tazuna looked at Naruto in shock. What do you mean? With your skills it wouldn't be hard for you to kill Gato. Naruto nodded his head in agreement. Indeed, that poses no problem. However, if Gato should die, what would prevent another tyrant from doing the same as he did? You people lack heart and will. That is something I cannot just hand to you. You must find it on your own. However, I will protect this village while we set up base. The rest is up to you and your people. Tazuna, that's fair enough. You can come this way. I have a house in the back where you can plan your whatever. Naruto and the group followed. Tazuna's house. Oh, it seems we have company. Well, good morning. My name is Tsunami. I'm Tazuna's daughter. Naruto gave her a warm smile and spoke in a diplomatic tone. We thank you for allowing us to use your home. Tsunami giggled and waved him off. Oh, it's our pleasure. Please make yourself feel at home. The group sat down and Naruto made a table sprout out of the ground, which shocked Tazuna to no ends. Zabuza, what is the landscape of the Kirigakure, and what battle formation do you use? Zabuza gave Naruto a thoughtful look and spoke in a serious tone. Kiri, as you know, is surrounded by many bodies of water. However, it also is surrounded by a mountainous terrain that creates a C shape on the land. It's impossible to climb by any means due to the moisture that surrounds the terrain, so we only have one area to attack from. Also, the Kiri ninja follow a pretty basic formation. Each swordsman controls his own section of the army. The rest of that is pretty basic. The Mizukage sends each battalion from then. As of now, he only has 4 swordsmen. Naruto nodded his head. Hayashi, send word to your clan. They will be the focal point of our attack, along with Kiri rebel faction. Hayashi's eyes nodded and flashed through a few jutsu and sent a messenger pigeon to Konoha. Naruto refocused onto the map. It's likely that the Mizukage will send his strongest shinobi as a way to completely decimate your faction. As of now, he has no knowledge of us assisting you. So it is likely the first swordsman to make contact will be the strongest, and that is Mangetsu Hozuki. What can you tell me about him, Zabuza? Zabuza gave Naruto his complete attention, spoke in a grim voice. Mangetsu Hozuki is a highly gifted shinobi. He was able to master and use each blade of the seven swordsmen. His prowess in water ninjutsu rivals and perhaps even surpasses that of your second Hokage. And on top of that, he uses his clan's ninjutsu that makes him invulnerable to all physical attacks. It is also stated that Jinjutsu is also useless against him. Naruto nodded his head at the information. Sarutobi, I will task you in defeating this man. Hayashi, you and your clan's priority will be in negating the effect of their water ninjutsu. You will be the long-range support with your Byakugan. You will be able to see the battlefield even from your distance and effectively counter against them. The rebel faction will be in charge of close combat. Due to the fact they understand the terrain better, they will be less likely to succumb to guerrilla warfare tactics. Ao Chijuro and Mei will be in charge of that unit. Tsunade, you will be the medic of the entire squadron. Kurenai, I task you with protecting Tsunade. Tsunade is the only medic the entire alliance has. If she were to die, it will result in our loss in this war. Sarutobi gazed at Naruto in amazement. That was a brilliant plan and an ingenious way to use the Hyuga Byakugan. I must say, Naruto, you continue to surprise. And what will I be doing? Asked Zabuza. You have one of the more important tasks, Zabuza. You will not be assigned to any one squadron. Your task will be to aid each and all of them. You will be the leader on the floor and assist those on the battlefield. You know the terrain better than any of us, being a former member of Seven Swordsmen. Zabuza nodded in understanding. And what will you be doing? Naruto continued to look at the map with great interest. The Mizukage will not make an appearance until he feels that he may lose the battle. I will arrive then. I will be the ace in the hole. Mei looked at Zabuza and Naruto in awe. It seemed both men got over their previous encounter. Flashback. Naruto and the crew continued their journey to Wave Country. With a quick succession of Shunshin, Zabuza, Meizu, and Gozu and Haku appeared. Naruto looked at the group distastefully. I see you did not heed my warning. Naruto attempted to pull his katana, only to be stopped when Zabuza waved his hand in front of himself in a disarming manner. We're not here to fight, kid. I'm only here to see Mei. Naruto glanced at Mei and said, You know this man? Mei answered normally. Hi, he is my brother. He is another member of our army. Naruto glanced back at Zabuza and said in an amused tone, I cannot say I see the family resemblance. Zabuza gave a sinister grin. We have different mothers, we're half-siblings. Naruto nodded in understanding. I take it you're here to help the cause. Zabuza nodded his head. Hi, I plan to kill the Mizukage. You guys will be in charge of taking out the army. Don't get in my way, and things will work out good for the both of us, stated Zabuza with a bloodthirsty, razor-sharp grin. Naruto showed no emotions and said calmly, How do you plan on defeating the Mizukage, Zabuza, demon of the bloody mist? Zabuza smirked. Ho ho ho. I see you know of me. Simple, really. I'm going to carve him in two with my Kubikurabocho. Zabuza finished with cruel grin and thumped his trusted blade proudly. Naruto nodded once more and said in a serious tone, You will surely die. Zabuza's eyes narrowed. What did you say, kid? Naruto replied in his same calm demeanor. Zabuza-san, you don't have the power necessary to defeat the Mizukage at your current level of power. You will surely die. Zabuza quickly unsheathed his Kubikurabocho. I dare you to say that again, brat. Naruto flared his chakra to insane levels. Gold chakra began to swirl around him. The power glowed intensely and blasted its way to the sky. The power was so oppressing that it completely immobilized Zabuza, leaving him in a catatonic state. Everyone could feel the chakra. They felt the strain under Naruto's oppressive chakra. Zabuza was fearing the worst. He glanced at Naruto and could only make out a silhouette of a man and golden eyes staring back at him. Zabuza dropped to both knees and his blade fell to the ground in front of him. You are no demon, Zabuza. I have seen the eyes of a demon. You are a mere human who has lost his way. You will soon learn your place. Should you raise your blade at me again, Zabuza, I will personally be your guide to the afterlife. Do we understand each other? Zabuza was unable to form any words and merely nodded. Naruto released his chakra and walked past Zabuza and continued to his destination. Zabuza collapsed to the ground, sweat marring every ounce of his body. Haku quickly ran to Zabuza's side and asked in worry, Are you alright, Zabuza-sama? Zabuza nodded his head, albeit tiredly. That kid is scary. Zabuza glanced at the captains, and he saw sympathy on most of their faces. They too followed Naruto, leaving Zabuza with the Kiri faction. Sis, what's with that kid? Mei looked at Zabuza and said, I'm not sure. All we know so far is that he's the son of the fourth Hokage and is insanely strong. TCH, that's an understatement, sis. That amount of chakra shouldn't be possible for any human, said Zabuza. Flashback end. In a matter of 7 days, we will launch an attack against Kiri. Mobilize the troops to this position. I have business I must take care of. Zabuza, come with me. Zabuza got up without a word and followed Naruto and left. What do you think that's about? Asked Tsunade. You never know with Naruto, said Sarutobi. What did you want with me? Asked Zabuza. I want the location of Gado's base. We will set up our base there. There is no need to bring these people into our war. Zabuza nodded. His base is not that far from here. I will lead the way. Naruto nodded his head and followed Zabuza to the destination. Gado's base. Boom! Zabuza blasted the door open with his Kubikurabocho. Naruto stood at Zabuza's side and watched on calmly when multiple thugs crowded the mansion surrounding the duo. They were wielding various weapons ranging from katana to oddly shaped scythe and kunai. Naruto asked in calm, cool, indifferent voice, Where is Gado? As if we'd tell you, kid, spoke a random thug. Naruto nodded his head. He predicted that sort of response. A bloodthirsty grin adorned Zabuza's features. I guess you are of no use to us then. And with those words, Zabuza slashed down the thug with lightning speed. Hey, Emperor, let's see who can kill the most. That's already one for me. Zabuza shortly began to make quick work of the thugs, hacking and decimating each thug ruthlessly, without a shred of compunction. Zabuza paused momentarily to see Naruto, standing in the same position with his eyes closed. What's he doing? Whatever, Emperor, that's already 57 for me at this rate. You'll never catch up. Is that so? Questioned Naruto. Naruto slowly opened his eyes to reveal the mythical Rinnegan. He spoke fluidly. Shinra Tensei, all the remaining thugs were killed, leaving Zabuza gaping like a fish out of water. I believe I've won, Zabuza, stated Naruto. Zabuza blinked owlishly. Yeah, I guess you did. What's with all the ruckus? What are you doing, Zabuza? Killing my men? You still work for me, you baka, yelled Gado. Zabuza shook his head. Sorry, Gado, I'm under new management. Is it the kid next you? He doesn't look so tough. But whatever, I'll pay you whatever you want, kid. Just work for me and clean this mess. Naruto looked at Gado with a smile. Of course, Gado. Bansho Tenin. Gado was lifted of his feet and pulled into Naruto's palm. Gado's eyes widened in fear. His feet weren't touching the ground. He made a fatal mistake in looking into Naruto's unforgiving cold eyes. Naruto's eyes began to swirl. You will hand over all your money, investments, stock, shipping, management, company, resources, land, and everything you own to me. Gado nodded. Naruto released Gado, and Gado began to walk to vault and began punching in the code. After a couple of seconds, he pulled multiple documents and handed all them over to Naruto. As of now, you own Gado Corp. and all proprieties. Naruto smiled. Very good, Gado, for your cooperation. I'll give you a quick, painless death. Naruto decapitated Gado with a katana that was lying on the floor. You are not worthy to die by my blade, spoke Naruto. Naruto looked at the bodies that marred the floor in distaste. Fire style. Fireball jutsu, all the bodies began to burn, leaving only ash and blood in their place. Zabuza, clean up this mess. Zabuza flashed through his own set of hand seal water style. Violent water shock wave. A large torrent of water erupted from Zabuza's mouth, quickly washing the floors that were once coated in blood. Naruto looked on impassively and went through one seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 5 clones shimmered to existence. Disarm any and all traps that may be in this mansion, ordered Naruto. The clones nodded and disappeared without a word. Zabuza, go inform the group of our new living arrangement and bring Gado's body to Wave Country. Tell them it's token of my appreciation for their hospitality. Zabuza nodded and left with the body. 1 week later. May you and the rebel faction move north straight into the main gates of Kirigakure, ordered Naruto. Hi, responded Mei. Hayashi, take your clan and the bulk of the rebel faction to your assigned posts. Hi, my lord, said Hayashi. As for you, Sarutobi, and the rest of you, you know your orders. Understood, my lord, replied Sarutobi and other members of the coalition forces. In that case, captains, headsets on and move out. Order Naruto with the utmost authority. With that, all the captains and their respected units moved out to their given positions, and Naruto slowly rose into the sky. Battle begins. Stop and lay down your weapons now, yelled a Kiri ninja before being struck down with a kunai. Kiri ninjas defend the main gates, yelled another Kiri ninja that looked as if he was a commander of some sort. With that, the battle of Kirigakure commenced. War quickly ensued. Ninjas began to shoot various jutsu at one another. Blood was quickly spewed on the ground. Shinobi began dying left and right. Panic and mayhem broke out throughout the whole village. With the Kiri border commander. Sir, orders from the Mizukage. He says he is sending Raiga Kurisuke and Mangetsu Hozuki to aid us in this battle. He also says that we are not to allow any rebel faction members to survive this battle, stated a Kiri messenger to the Kiri commander. Understood. Tell each unit to stand their ground and push the rebels back. Hi, replied the Kiri messenger before sunshining away. With Mei and the rebel faction. Naruto, the Kiri ninjas are making an attempt to overrun our position, spoke Mei through her headset. Good, proceed to phase 2. Tell your forces to retreat. Make sure the Kirinin take the bait, replied Naruto through the headset. Hi, said Mei before turning her attention to her troops. All units retreat to Point Alpha. Move now, I will cover your retreat. Lava style. Lava globs, yelled Mei, sending a multiple globs of lava, which successfully hit multiple Kiri shinobi. Fuck you, Kekkei Genkai wielding freak, yelled the Kiri Nin in agony. The Kiri Nin who weren't hit the blast quickly charged Mei with multiple kunai and yelled in anger, "Die you whore." Mei reacted with grace and flashed through a set of seals and calmly said, "Boil release." Skilled mist technique, sending a wave of acidic gas. Multiple Kiri Nin paid no attention to the mist and ran through. What the fuck is this? My skin is burning, yelled a Kiri Nin in disbelief and pain. The wise Kiri Nin fled the mist and yelled, "Wind style." Great break through. Immediately the deadly gas was dispersed. The Kiri Nin didn't let up and ran through another string of seals and yelled, "Water style." 100 serpent strike. Multiple snakes shot out from the water at Mei. Mei showed no hesitation and yelled with a quick succession of seals, "Fire style." Fireball jutsu. The ball of fire and snake hit each other simultaneously, creating a volume of steam. Mei smirked. That should be enough time, and with that she used the mist as means for her escape. Where did that bitch go? Yelled a random Kiri Nin. With Naruto. Perfect, it's all going as planned, muttered Naruto to himself. Hayashi, prepare your forces to move. I will signal you when to move, said Naruto via headset. Hi, but what is the signal? Questioned Hayashi. You will know when the time comes. Naruto out. Finished Naruto, but soon after started speaking again. Sarutobi, proceed to the rendezvous point with Mei. You know what to do. Understood, my lord, replied Sarutobi via headset from his undisclosed location. In the Mizukage Tower. Mizukage-sama, the rebels are retreating out into the country. Raiga Kurisuke and Mangetsu Hozuki along with their battalions have joined our border ninjas and are aiding them to crush the rebel forces, said a Kiri commander. Petty rebels. Defeated so easily. Commander, issue an order. Make sure that those rebels are crushed under any means necessary. Tell Raiga Kurisuke and Mangetsu that they are part of the Seven Swordsmen for a reason and that I expect nothing less than total victory and an end to this civil war. Spoke the Mizukage. Hi, my liege, said the Kiri commander, who then left to deliver the message. With Mei? Oh good, you've made it, Mei, said a rebel faction member. Well, of course I made it, replied Mei before issuing a new set of orders. Everyone, this is as far as we go. Dig in and hold your ground. There won't be any backup or reinforcements for us. This is where we finally end this war. End this war? Yes, but you won't be a part of the victors. You and your group of traitors will die right here, interrupted Mangetsu. Well, I see he was right. The Mizukage did send only his best, replied Mei. And by he you mean? Questioned Mangetsu. That doesn't matter now. All that matters is that you die, countered Mei. And you are the ones going to kill us? Asked Raiga sarcastically. No, unfortunately, that'd be me, said Sarutobi, appearing from what seemed to be nowhere. Sarutobi, this battle does not concern Konoha nor you, retorted Mangetsu in outrage. But you are mistaken. These rebels are Konoha's allies. What? Konoha dares to go to war with Kirigakure? You send word to the Mizukage that Konoha is attacking along with the rebels now, roared Mangetsu to Akiri Nin. Would release 10,000 roots, roared Naruto Namikaze from a location in the sky not visible with the naked eye. Suddenly thousands of roots as thick as 3 men grew from the ground in both directions, cutting off any route of retreat for the Kiri ninjas. Well then, looks like we have time to kill, said Mei with a wicked smile. With Hayashi. All units, that's the sign. Move in on the village while the Kirinin are blocked, ordered Hayashi. Tsunade, I know Naruto said you won't be doing much, but we could use your destructive power to destroy the main gates. I was thinking you'd never ask. Tsunade nodded her head towards Hayashi and flexed her arm with one mighty punch. The main gates were blasted of their hinges. Tsunade narrowly dodged a kunai from a Kiri shinobi. She reacted by sending a thunderous punch to the ground. The effect were instantaneous. A mighty fissure carved the ground, leaving many Kiri Nin to plummet to their deaths. Fall back, Lady Tsunade, we will take it from here, said Hayashi. Tsunade nodded and jumped to rear with Kurenai right behind her. Water style, Water Dragon Bullet yelled multiple Kiri Nin, sending multiple water blasts at the Hyuga clan. The Hyuga responded with great ease. Water style. Uzumaki, Secret Supreme Dragon's Rage. One mighty behemoth of a dragon rose from the sea the size of Gamabunta. The dragon let out a piercing roar and attacked the Kiri ninjas with one fell swoop, drowning multiple of them. However, the dragon did not vanish. The Hyuga continued to hold the ram seal, allowing the mighty dragon to remain in existence. The Kiri shinobis responded with an attack of their own. They all went through a long-winded series of hand signs, and all finished at the ram seal simultaneously. Water style, Wave of 1,000 tides. A wave of mighty proportions rose, dwarfing the dragon in comparison. The Hyuga quickly flared the chakra to increase the dragon's size, but it was no match for the wave. The wave continued to grow in size. Now, yelled the Kiri shinobi, sending the massive tide at Konoha and Rebel Alliance. The Hyuga clan looked on with worry. Water style, Water Bullet Jutsu yelled Zabuza, blasting multiple Kiri shinobi, quickly dispelling the jutsu. Attack now. These Kiri Nin are highly gifted at ninjutsu, but their taijutsu hardly compares. We strike now, roared Zabuza. The Hyuga clan all nodded and charged the Kiri shinobi with Hayashi and Zabuza leading the charge. With the Mizukage. Mizukage-sama, the village has been infiltrated. Hundreds of rebels are flooding in through the main gate, said a Kiri messenger. Then stop them. How many could it be? Yelled the Mizukage. Sir, they are accompanied by what appears to be Konoha shinobi. The captains, to be specific, replied the messenger. CA captains, as in the Fire Country Supreme Emperor's court guards? Hi, replied the Nin solemnly. Get word to all ninjas in the village as well as to all to my swordsmen. And get Raiga and Mangetsu back in the village. They should have finished those rebels off by now, roared the Mizukage. What is the Emperor doing with his captains in my village? With Naruto in the skies above Kirigakure. All according to plan, stated Naruto with a smirk. Sarutobi, decimate those Kiri Nin. Hayashi, continue deeper into the village, stay in groups. Tsunade, heal the wounded, and Kurenai watch her back, ordered Naruto. Your turn, Mizukage. Mizukage's tower. Where the hell is Raiga and Mangetsu? Roared the Mizukage. Sir, we received word that they are still out in the country fighting the rebels who have been aided by Sarutobi, Kami no Shinobi, replied the Kiri messenger. Why? I ordered them back to the village to cut down the invading rebels and Konoha Nin. Sir, they have been blocked by what seems to be tree roots. It extends to the east and west half a mile in each direction. What about Jinpachi and Jinin? Where are they? Sir, They are currently fighting off rebel faction members in the neighborhoods surrounding the main gate. Commander, evacuate the village. We're going to have a little fun. You, fetch my staff and assemble my guards. We leave at once. Finished the Mizukichi. Naruto versus Mizukichi. The Mizukichi quickly made his appearance and slashed all the rebel and Konoha nin alike with relative ease. The Mizukichi quickly caught sight of Hayashi Hyuga. I see the Konoha shinobi have indeed sided with the rebel, so be it, they will die alongside them as well. The Mizukichi raced at Hayashi with the intent of killing him. Hayashi failed to notice Mizukichi in time, however it was not needed. Zabuza appeared out of nowhere with his Kubikurabocho in the defensive opposition and managed to block Yagura's strike. Yagura spoke coldly. I see you've returned, Zabuza. I must say I never expected you to show your face after your betrayal. Zabuza grunted from his defense position. I did what I felt was right. Mindlessly killing our people is wrong and foolish. Yagura's eyes showed no mercy, and with a quick spin, he deflected Zabuza's blade, pushing it upward, and got behind Zabuza and stabbed him from behind with his staff. Zabuza's eyes widened. I see. He was right. I never thought the difference in our power would be so great. Yagura pulled out his staff distastefully. Worthless fool. You sided with them instead of me and died with dishonor. Naruto, the Mizukichi has arrived, stated Hayashi grimly through the headset. A bolt of lightning streaked to the ground, blasting multiple of ninjas away, creating a blinding light, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. As soon as the light died, standing in all his glory was Naruto, with his Rinnegan displayed at full force. Yagura showed no fear and spoke smoothly. I see you've finally arrived, Emperor. Forgive me, but I had to dispatch of a few traitors of mine. You now have my undivided attention. Naruto looked at Zabuza's deceased body in sympathy. Your death will not be in vain. Naruto spoke aloud. Hayashi, pull out and rendezvous with Mei and Sarutobi. This battle has no room for anyone but me and the Mizukichi. Hayashi nodded grimly and gathered the remaining forces. So you have been the man behind the curtain, pulling all the strings of this battle. I knew mere rebels could not concoct such an intricate plan, stated the Mizukichi. Indeed, you are correct, replied Naruto. Care to explain how you came up with such an underhanded battle plan? It was simple. I relied on your arrogance and eagerness to win. I assumed you would send your strongest commanders to decimate the rebel faction, and with your two strongest commanders out of the way, you have lost this war. Explained Naruto. What will you do now? Your village has lost its two remaining commanders, and now you are all that's left. With that, the Mizukichi quickly looked both to his left and right to notice that Jinin and Jinpachi had been indeed slain. Ha ha ha. Lost. I believe you're mistaken. I'm the Mizukichi. My power is unmatched, and I will crush all of you. It's their fault they died, allowing such weak rebels to do them in disgraceful, said Yagura in disgust. With those words, the Mizukichi charged at Naruto with blinding speed. With his staff poised for the kill, Naruto reacted quickly, and Hyarinmaru quickly formed in Naruto's hand. Naruto quickly deflected Yagura's strike and aimed a horizontal slash at Yagura's head. Yagura reacted quickly and dodged under the strike. He quickly lunged his staff at Naruto's abdomen. Naruto's eyes narrowed. He quickly grabbed the staff, preventing any damage, and lashed out with a viscous kick at Yagura's head, send him sailing away. Yagura landed gracefully and calmly wiped the trail of blood that leaking out his mouth. Yagura, instead of looking worried from the previous attack, Yagura had an insane grin on his face. Yes, this is going to be indeed an entertaining battle. Make me feel alive, roared Yagura with his staff poised for battle once more. Yagura disappeared with great speed and appeared hovering over Naruto with an overhead strike. Naruto quickly jumped back to avoid the attack. Yagura slammed his staff into the ground, creating a fairly large crater on impact. Yagura wasted no time and jumped once more at Naruto and swung his staff in a vertical slash. Naruto reacted fluidly and calmly tilted his body to one side, allowing the staff to sail past him harmlessly. Yagura spun on his heel and launched his staff with rapid succession at Naruto's head. Naruto once more showed no fear and reacted with the grace of expert swordsman. Without using his blade, Naruto continued to avoid all slashes and attacks from Yagura. Yagura, however, was not one to be denied and launched an extremely fast strike at Naruto's head, forcing Naruto to jump to the sky to avoid the attack. Yagura quickly followed and lunged with his staff at Naruto. Naruto retaliated by blocking with his Zanpakuto, his face remaining impassive. However, Yagura had an insane smile. The two were in a deadlock for a few seconds until Naruto quickly went on the offensive and used his superior strength. He deflected his blade upwards, leaving Yagura open. Naruto calmly slashed Yagura with a right-to-left strike. Yagura's eyes showed brief worry, but he reacted with great creativity and managed to grab Naruto's hand at the last movement and jumped over the blade to avoid damage. Yagura's leg lashed out with a viscous kick. However, Naruto used his left hand to catch the kick, but Yagura was not done and used his remaining leg to send another kick at Naruto's face. Naruto used Yagura's own leg and managed to block the kick. Yagura grunted in pain but reacted with a move of his own. With lightning-fast reflexes, Yagura let go of Naruto's sword. It spun in the air horizontally, breaking free of Naruto's grasp, and while in mid-flight, he planted a solid kick at Naruto's chest, sending Naruto sailing away. Naruto skidded a couple of meters away before Yagura even landed on the ground. Naruto stabbed his sword into the ground, threw a lone shuriken, and raced through a string of hand seals. Shuriken shadow clone technique. The lone multiplied into hundreds of shurikens. Yagura responded expertly and blocked and evaded all of the shurikens. However, Naruto did not wait patiently while all this was going on, and he immediately pointed his finger at Yagura and stated calmly, "Destructive art 4. White lightning." A bolt of lightning blasted out of Naruto's finger at Yagura with frightening speed. Yagura, however, managed to tilt his staff to deflect the blast in the nick of time. Naruto once more went through a series of hand signs and yelled, "Fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu," sending a large ball of flames Yagura's way. In response, Yagura yelled his own jutsu in response. Water release. Water mirror technique. A mirror about 5 feet in diameter appeared, and to Naruto's immense surprise, a clone of Naruto stepped out the mirror and went through a familiar set of seals and launched a fireball jutsu equivalent to what Naruto recently used. The two fireball created a large explosion upon contact. Black smoke covered the whole landscape. Naruto flashed through a series of hand seals and yelled wind-style great break. Through the smoke, all began to disperse. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Yagura was nowhere in sight. He quickly turned and managed just in the nick of time to block a strike from Yagura. Yagura's eyes showed brief surprise. "You're pretty good, Emperor. I wasn't expecting you to block." Naruto said nothing and merely jumped away from Yagura and flashed through a set of seals. Lava style. Lava tide. A large wave of lava spewed out of Naruto's mouth. Yagura then performed his own array of seals. Water release. Great waterfall technique. The moisture from the air began to condense at a rapid rate, forming large vortex of water in front of Yagura. The water quickly increased to unbelievable portion and blasted the lava quickly, diverting the lava's trajectory. Yagura wasted no time and ran through another string of seals, 1,000 flying water needles of death, using the moisture that surround the area and the vast amount of water nearby. Yagura created multiple needles that easily surpassed the thousands, and with a wave of his hand the needles were sent at Naruto with alarming speed. Naruto looked on impassively and flashed through his own seal's fire style. Fire vortex. A vortex made of pure fire erupted from the ground, creating a barrier around Naruto. The water upon contact began to evaporate until the needles were no more. Naruto's vortex deactivated in the response. Naruto was forced to block with his Zanpakuto once more when Yagura appeared in front of him with an overhead slash. The duo engaged in another fierce kenjutsu battle, going at insane speed. Sparks of metal were the only things that were visible. The two broke apart. After a long-winded session, both of them were sporting a few cuts, nothing too serious though. Naruto's eyes showed brief worry. When all of Yagura's cuts began to heal, "You see, you can't win. I can do this all day and not get tired. You, on the other, are not so lucky." Naruto said no words and flashed through a long chain of hand seal wind style. Divine wind. The cloud began to darken the sky and multiple tornadoes began to form, and they began to destroy everything in their path. Yagura looked on in shock. He quickly began to jump around and avoid each of the tornado's path. Naruto looked on with an empathetic gaze and muttered another jutsu fire style, Dragon Flame Blitz. Naruto spat out multiple dragons of blue flames with rapid speed. The dragon combined with the tornadoes to create huge firestorms, which blazed the entire arena, destroying houses, leaving the ground scattered with scorch marks. Naruto had a smirk upon his face. No human alive could have survived that technique. Naruto turned his head and began to walk, only to stop when the wall of flames suddenly disappeared. Yagura was standing in an oddly shaped cloak with two tails sporting from his body. Naruto's eyes narrowed. This is what Kurama-sensei must have been speaking about. Jinchuriki have the power to use their associated Biju's power. Swift release, flash step. Naruto calmly muttered. A column of gold chakra swirled around Naruto's body. Naruto's eyes were set on Yagura with full concentration. Kurama informed that a Jinchuriki's power are greatly enhanced once he is in his Biju state. From here on, I cannot take any chances. Yagura vanished with great speed. The area he was once standing was destroyed from his insane burst of speed. Naruto began to dodge and evade each of Yagura's strikes with great difficulty. Huh? I told you, Emperor, you cannot compare to the power of a Biju. All inevitably fall to my might. Naruto's eyes showed nothing, and Naruto spoke in a solemn tone. Shinra Tensei. Yagura was immediately blasted away. However, that did not last long, and an arm sprouted from Yagura's back, cushioning his fall. Naruto was gazing at Yagura with full intent. Although he never managed to hit me, I still suffered burns because of the close proximity. I won't be able to keep up swift release for much longer either. I'll have to finish this battle quickly. Naruto's eyes began to leak with blood, and Naruto spoke in a monotone voice. Amaterasu gold flames began to erupt on Yagura's body, and Yagura began to roar and thrash in displeasure. Naruto dropped to one knee in pain. Although I don't suffer the normal effect of this jutsu, it is still a painful jutsu to use. Yagura slowly began to get up. The wounds that once adorned his body were perfectly healed. I must say that did hurt, and in return I'll greet you with the same hospitality you've shown me. Yagura launched at Naruto with unbridled speeds. His hand was cocked, ready to deliver a devastating blow. Naruto looked on impassively. His eyes showed only resolve. Immediately, a skeleton vertebra formed around Naruto. He calmly muttered, Susanoo. Yagura slammed into Naruto with great force, smashing Naruto into the ground. Naruto showed no signs of pain and slowly got up. However, he did not get to stay on his feet for long. Yagura launched another attack, pinning Naruto into a wall. Naruto, I showed brief worry when Susanoo began to crack. I see, I have not quite mastered this jutsu. It is time. With those thoughts, Susanoo broke, and Yagura finally broke free. I did it, I killed the Emperor, yelled Yagura with the insane glee. However, Yagura's joy quickly vanished when he felt a tingle sensation on his outreached hand. He heard a faint bankai and was immediately blasted to the other side of the field. Naruto was encased in a dome of ice. The ice began to break apart to reveal a perfectly fine Naruto in his Bankai mode. Naruto began to release an insane amount of chakra. The arena slowly began to cover itself in a thick sheet of ice until the whole village was encased in ice. Naruto looked at Yagura's downed form. I with distaste. Be proud, you have forced me to release my Bankai. You will die with that honor. Silence, fool, yelled Yagura in his Biju state. Yagura quickly rose to his feet and charged Naruto faster than ever. Naruto flew at Yagura with equivalent speed. Both arrived at each other at the same time. Naruto yelled Dragon Hail Flower and managed to pierce Yagura in his Biju state. A huge burst of ice erupted from Yagura, encasing and freezing him. Naruto looked at Yagura's frozen state in satisfaction. It's finally over. With Sarutobi. What will you do now, Mangetsu, now that your comrade has perished? Spoke Sarutobi in his usual composted state. Mangetsu looked at Raiga's deceased body in disgust. Raiga, you fool, you've gone and gotten yourself killed. I won't be able to reach Yagura now. Mangetsu craned his neck, hearing a stratifying pop. He rolled his shoulders and looked at Mei and Sarutobi and said, You shouldn't speak so confidently, Sarutobi. You've yet to deal any damage throughout the whole fight. Besides, Raiga was slowing me down. Now that I don't have to continue to protect him, I can finally let go. Mangetsu placed his hand in the ram seal and calmly muttered hiding in mist technique using the abundant water vapor that surround the village. A looming mist encased the whole battlefield. Do you still believe you can defeat me, Sarutobi? Mangetsu voiced echoed throughout the whole mist. Sarutobi, I showed no worry, and he spoke fluidly. Mei-san, we will need to work together to defeat this foe. Mei gave a Sarutobi a barely perceptible nod. The two nin waited patiently for Mangetsu to strike, but they didn't wait long when Mangetsu appeared behind Sarutobi and quickly beheaded him. The Sarutobi immediately fell apart, revealing itself to be a mud clone. Mangetsu, eyes narrowed in anger. Sarutobi appeared behind Mangetsu and calmly muttered, Fire style, Fire Dragon Flame Bomb, unleashing an inferno of blazing hot flames from Sarutobi's mouth at Mangetsu. Mangetsu was blasted by the jutsu. His body was revealed to be in a water-like state, completely unharmed. You don't get it, Sarutobi. My hydration technique allows my body to remain in a water-like state as long as I have enough water to sustain the jutsu. And just look around, with this amount of water, I'm completely invulnerable to all your attacks. You cannot win. Back with Naruto and Yagura. What's finally over, Emperor? Asked Yagura in his iced form. Naruto looked at Yagura with brief shock. Yagura unleashed a large burst of chakra, quickly blasting the ice dome that once encased him. Yagura reacted with great ease and plunged his fist into Naruto's gut, puncturing a hole in Naruto's stomach. Yagura smiled in satisfaction. Naruto's eyes widened and looked at Yagura's arm in total shock. Yagura looked at Naruto's face in utter joy and glee. However, it was cut short when Naruto began to break apart, revealing him to be an ice clone. Yagura turned his head to see Naruto standing patiently behind with a bored look. Who does he think he is with that look of superiority? Does he dare look down upon me? Yagura began to unleashing Viler chakra, and he slowly levitated from the ground, and in a massive explosion Yagura appeared in his full Biju state. Naruto looked on Yagura. No, the Biju with cold indifference. Any more damage to this village, and it will be beyond repair. I must finish this now. The cloud began to darken in response to Naruto's chakra. Yagura began to raise his chakra as well, and a ball of condensed energy began to form in front of his mouth. Naruto, eyes narrowed. That must be the Biju ball. I must hurry. Naruto finally finished the necessary preparation and calmly pointed his blade at the enormous turtle Biju and said with disdain, Frozen heaven, 100-flower funeral snow began to fall from the sky, and upon contact snow began to form snow flowers. Yagura looked on in outrage. What is this, boy? Naruto did not deem Yagura with an explanation, and in matter of second the mighty turtle Biju was encased in a pillar of ice flowers. Naruto deactivated his Bankai in response. What a dangerous foe to push me this extent. I commend you, Yagura of Kiri. Naruto walked away only to be stopped once more when he heard a crack. Naruto craned his head at Yagura and spoke solemnly. I see even Rinmaru's strongest attack is no match. This is the power of a Biju. Yagura quickly broke free of the attack and continued to build his chakra once more, and then unleashed the devastating Biju ball on Naruto. Naruto in response flashed through a series of hand seal and yelled hastily, would release, wood locking wall. Naruto created a massive dome of wood. The Biju ball eradicated the dome on contact, enveloping the entire arena in a blinding light. The arena died down to reveal Yagura perfectly fine and Naruto, who was encased in Susanoo once more. To be able to destroy the wood locking wall on impact, the Biju power is indeed unrivaled. I'll have to use that jutsu. Naruto flashed through a long series of hand seals and yelled wood style. Wood dragon, a gigantic wooden dragon rose from the ground directly beneath them, resembling a Chinese dragon, though with a short trunk-like nose. It began constricting the massive turtle Biju. The turtle continued to trash around, but the dragon only continued to grow stronger in response. All Bijus succumbed to this. The jutsu Hashirama used this jutsu to subdue the Bijus. There is no way for you to win now, Yagura. The turtle stopped thrashing and began to form into a ball and rolled into the water. Naruto, I showed brief worry. He's going to the Department of the Ocean. The jutsu won't last long. My chakra won't be able to reach at that distance. The turtle Biju rose from the water with an insane grin. The jutsu releasing long ago. What will you do now, Emperor? Your would-release jutsu is rendered useless against me. Face it, Emperor, you have lost. Naruto smirked derisively. You too shall learn the extent of my power. Naruto raced through a series of hand signs and slammed his palm into the ground and yelled, summoning jutsu. Standing in all his glory was Kurama, the nine-tailed fox. Kurama had a hungry look upon his face. Naruto stood on top of Kurama's head with his hand folded. Kurama spoke eagerly. It's about time.